Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Close. It is Monday. No, it's not Monday. It is Friday, January 17th. The market's not going to be open on Monday, but I will be live on Monday for the inauguration. Folks, these are the last 14 minutes of the Biden administration's stock market. And after these last 14 minutes, we are entering into a new era for the stock market starting on Tuesday. So last day of Biden being president with the stock market open. And what a day it has been, ironically, because the market is kind of excited about the next guy that's up to become the president of the United States. Pltr, $72.12. Robinhood, $48.13. NVIDIA, $137, up 3%. Hood up 4%. Pltr up 4.2%. Nubank up 2.6%. MSTR, $394, up 7.6%. S&P 500, 598, got very close to 6,000, but did not touch it today. Up 1.14%. I can go on and on and on. SoFi's up 1%. Google's up 2%. Grab's up 1%. Meta is up 0.5%. Schlumberger up 7%. I mean, it's just been an incredible day for the stock market. It's one of those days where you're like, you know, this week we already had a fantastic day, I think, on CPI day, so on Wednesday. And I didn't think we would get another one of these days, but here we are on Friday. Not as crazy as it was on Wednesday, but for some stocks, yeah, it's pretty damn crazy in terms of their momentum. Now, are we at the absolute highs that we were at on the market open? I think I left here at about 12 p.m. No, Robinhood was at 49.20. Tesla was at almost 440, 439. Pltr is actually holding up really nicely, 72.24. Pltr is basically at where we were before. Grab was at 460. SoFi was almost at 1673. So we've given back a little bit of the gains as we get into the end of power hour for the stock market. But in general, still been a hell of a day. And I don't think anyone can complain with some of the green that they're seeing right here on their portfolio. Again, all the Mac 7 green, pretty much all the semis are green. Let's take a look at Intel real quick. Intel was up 8% of the day. Intel's now up 8.9%. So it looks like the acquisition rumors on Intel may have a little bit of credibility for it to maintain these levels. Marathon up 9%. I mean, even HIMS, which got hit by 7% this morning after Bank of America came out and said their Q4 is not going to be that good. They rebounded back to 28.68. Now they're at 27.68, down 1%, which is better than being down 5%. But overall, incredible day for the markets. And Robinhood, maybe we get a $48 close for the first time in over 3 years. Absolutely incredible with the broader equity market. So let's talk about some of the stuff we got going on. We have some headlines. I want to touch a little bit on TikTok because we got some new stuff on TikTok that we should get into, some more macro stuff. But overall, good week. Very, very, very strong week. Beckard, what's up? TJ, Missy, Brandon, good morning, good morning. Why am I saying good morning? Or good afternoon. Eddie, Raul, it still feels like the morning, bro, because we were streaming all day. So it feels like we've been here for a while. Adam, what's up? Inked Up, George. Daniel, we do have some Pltr news as well. We'll talk about that a little bit in addition to some of the stuff we had this morning. John, Marcus, Meditation Mind, Pedro, Just Me, Haskar. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Amit, can you name 2 players on the Nets? Jason Kidd played on the Nets before, and Darren Williams played on the Nets before. 2 players currently on the Nets? No, the Lakers traded some guy, though, just recently. D'Angelo Russell, I think. But outside of that, no. I'm so bad at this. But regardless, it doesn't matter who plays on the Nets because Robinhood's at $48.27. That's all that matters. All right, so macro, 10-year. Where is the 10-year? Well, the 10-year is down. It's up a little bit on the day, 4.611, but like realistically, it's down from 4.8, which is all that matters. This is, I think, the reason we had a big move for the past couple of days in the stock market. Dollar's up a little bit. This thing's going to be a little bit harder to get down. We talked about this morning. If Japan raises their rates, that's going to help us. So maybe in another month, that's what Trump uses to get rates to come down. But so far, the dollar is, you know, below 110, where it peaked out on Tuesday, but still pretty high compared to a couple years ago. Now, TikTok, which has to do a little bit more with the macro, and we'll get into that in a second. Here's what the TikTok CEO said today. I am pretty convinced TikTok's not getting banned, and it's because the CEO himself basically just thanked Donald Trump for not banning them.
Hi, everyone. It's Show here. As you know, we have been fighting to protect the constitutional right to free speech for the more than 170 million Americans who use our platform every day to connect, create, discover, and achieve their dreams. On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States. This is a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship. As we've said, TikTok is a place where people can create communities, discover new interests, and express themselves, including over 7 million American businesses who earn a living and gain new customers using our platform. We are grateful and pleased to have the support of a president who truly understands our platform, one who has used TikTok to express his own thoughts and perspectives, connecting with the world and generating more than 60 billion views of his content in the process. To all American users, thank you for making our TikTok community such a rich and vibrant space, for surprising and delighting us every day. Rest assured, we will do everything in our power to ensure our platform thrives as your online home for limitless creativity and discovery, as well as a source of inspiration and joy for years to come. Thank you. More to come.
So, I mean, guys, there's just no way in hell TikTok gets banned. Like the CEO is basically taking a victory lap right there, saying, "Yay, free speech, America. You guys believe in it. The country that controls my company doesn't believe in it, but you guys believe in it. So as a result, you guys can't get rid of us." And it looks like it's going to stay. Now, here's the thing I saw today that freaked me out. That video is already kind of freaky, but take a look at this. This new Red Note app that all the kids are downloading in America? That's another like Chinese app, which is a knockoff of Instagram and TikTok combined together. This guy on Twitter who works in tech got banned on it. And the reason he got banned is because he posted a picture of Winnie the Pooh. Now, if you don't know, Winnie the Pooh is censored in China because internet memes compare Winnie the Pooh to Xi Jinping. So he got a notice from the app today, Red Note, that Winnie the Pooh is violating the national, the reason was harming national interest, quote unquote, and he's not on the app anymore. So, I mean, dude, like just as an American seeing that stuff happen, I don't understand how TikTok is going to be good for us, but nonetheless, Trump is going to not let it get banned. I know there's a lot of arguments for why TikTok should stay for small business and all this stuff, and I get it. But in general, this new thing that's coming into the market, Red Note, it doesn't seem like that's going to be healthy. So I think there's going to be a lot more to this saga that's left to play out. Now, the implications for investor are Google and Meta. What does it mean for them? Honestly, I don't think it means anything. Meta's going to be fine with TikTok, without TikTok. So is Google. I think everyone was looking for a little bit of a pump on both of those names if TikTok got banned. Obviously, that's not going to happen, even with the Supreme Court on a 9-0 decision saying, get this thing out of here. It looks like Trump is going to be able to keep it to stay. And Biden's involved in this as well, because Biden's basically punting it to Trump. Biden could get rid of it January 19th before 12 a.m., but it seems like he's not going to be doing that. So TikTok is here to stay, not going to have an impact on Meta and Google, but that product will still be around. Bitcoin 105. So Bitcoin has really shocked me today. I mean, I don't think I expected a 105 pump. I don't think anyone expected a 105 pump when it was 89,000 a couple of days ago. But then again, that's the nature of Bitcoin. We saw the ETF inflows over the past couple of days have been phenomenal. Here's something you probably might not have seen. This whole crypto ball we've been talking about that's being sponsored by Zuckerberg. That is, or that's like Zuckerberg's like one of the main guys on the crypto ball. That is happening. It's not associated with the White House. It's a like group of companies that have come together to do it. And Crypto.com is sponsoring it. Crypto.com is sponsoring it. So I wonder if it's going to be streamed live or not. I guess we're going to see on Monday if this crypto ball ends up happening. I do think Trump is going to make an appearance there. It's going to be happening the street from the White House. So there's like this venue near the White House that the crypto ball is going to be hosted at. And if Trump wants to make an appearance along with JD Vance, they would be allowed to make an appearance. Question is, are they going to make an appearance? I think they probably will, just to like say, hey, what's up? But that is a real thing that is indeed happening. And then if you look at the poly market odds on a U.S. national Bitcoin reserve in 2025, there's a 65% chance that that thing is happening. And, poly market, the Kalshi, these polls have become more and more accurate over time because they're aggregating a lot of the sentiment data together. And we're starting to see some broader momentum around the idea that a Bitcoin reserve is going to happen. On top of that, you got Cynthia Loomis, who's one of the senators who proposed the bill for a Bitcoin reserve in the first place. She is working hard to get the strategic Bitcoin reserve and comprehensive digital asset legislation across the finish line before Trump officially takes office, so that he immediately has something to sign. And it does look like this Bitcoin reserve idea is going to be happening, which is going to be exciting to see. So overall, I mean, we are seeing plenty of momentum right here in the broader markets, and obviously with Bitcoin at 105,000. Now the question is, does it hold over the weekend? I think, obviously it's going to be volatile. Look at Bitcoin. It was at 105.999.49. It was 51 cents away from hitting 106. But the only fear I have is there a sell the news going into the Trump inauguration? But it seems like people are buying the inauguration. Like they're buying into the inauguration with the expectation that the inauguration is going to go well. Maybe there's a sell the news on any of his executive orders, but nonetheless, right now, crypto is being pretty friendly. All the crypto assets, Fartcoin, Butthole Coin, Ripple, XRP, Solana, all of them. I mean, everything. Even Ethereum is getting a monster green candle right here. Look at that on Ethereum, 3,500, up 4.2% of the day. It was at this week, 2,900, January 13th, just 4 days ago. I mean, literally January 13th, if you bought anything that's kind of related to crypto, you've done pretty damn well, since it seemed like that was the bottom, at least for the intra week. And that's what we're seeing right now as we end out the week. Nubank up 2.4%. Marathon, nice 9% move today. Robinhood again, 48. We've got 3 minutes left. Let's see if Robinhood can get that $48 close. Coinbase, wow, 295. It did hit 300, up 4.84%. S&P 500, 597. Then Tesla giving back a decent amount of gains from 439 to 426, but still up 3% on the day, which is very, very exciting. Dogecoin as well. Let me check Doge. I haven't checked Doge. Dogecoin right now, where is that at? Dogecoin is up, wow, 9%. Yeah, Dogecoin. So pretty much everything moving in the crypto ecosystem. Rocket Lab, I haven't looked at all day. Rocket Lab is down 2.6%. Rocket Lab and HIMS didn't participate too much today. Don't know why for Rocket Lab. For HIMS, the Bank of America report really got them. But a lot of the other names we look at have participated. Names that didn't participate today: Rivian, Novo Nordisk, KB Home, Lyft, DJT down about 2%, GameStop down about 1%. The quantum names were also getting kind of hit today. Yeah, all of them down about 5 to 10%. So not really moving with the rest of the market. Rocket Lab here now down 2.7%. Spec names, most of them are okay outside of the, actually, no, most of them are pretty bad. I haven't looked at them all day. So MicroStrategy is the only one that's up. Oklow's up. The rest of them are all red. Archer, Soundhound, Big Bear, Faraday Future, Quantum, Color, and the rest of them. And then crypto, pretty green, as all of them rallying off a 105,000 on Bitcoin. And then the Max 7 as well, all green. NVIDIA, great day as well, up 3%. So it's been a good day. It's been a good week, good day. Not bad. This is what we've been kind of waiting to see. We needed that 10-year to come down, needed CPI to be good. The good thing is that all the data we needed this week, including housing starts, which were very bullish this morning, beating expectations by 200,000, is what we needed, right? All this data we needed to be factored in. Now it's factored in. Now the only data that's really left for the next couple of weeks is earnings. I mean, there's no big macro thing. Yes, Jay Powell speaks on FOMC in about 2 weeks, but we know he's going to pause. He's not going to raise or hike. So there's nothing, or cut or hike. There's nothing too exciting there. So we got all the data. Now it's up to the market to see if they want to continue buying into equities. All right, folks, here we go. It is 4 p.m. Friday, January 17th. The stock market is now closed, and this is the final day for the stock market under Joe Biden. All right, here we go. Market closes 597.49 on S&P. Really green day for the S&P, up about 1%. It bottomed at 575 on Monday, or I think on Tuesday. 597.49 is not too bad. We have one comment right here. DOJ filed lawsuit against Walgreens, apparently for millions of illegitimate prescriptions. Let's check Walgreens real quick. Wow, that one's down. Yeah, down 3%. I did not see that headline. We'll look into that, but that one definitely not the best for Walgreens. Coinbase ends the day up 5%, 295.48. Did Robinhood get the $48 close? Robinhood got the $48 close, $48.15, up 4.49%. Robinhood is up 25% in the past 10 days. Absolutely incredible for Hoodie. Tesla up 3%, 426.5. That is not bad. Pltr could not get the $72 close, but 71.83 is not too bad for Pltr. A couple updates on Pltr that we'll talk about in a second. Marathon up 8%, 1991. Bitcoin still holding 104.6. Grab got the 450 close, up about 1.12%. SoFi got the 1650 close, 1.23 exactly on the dot. 16.15 for SoFi. CleanSpark was up about 6%. Mercado Libre flat on the day. Alibaba was up 3.28%. Trump did say, I'll read his statement in a second, but him and Xi Jinping were on the phone and they discussed a bunch of things, including immigration, trade, fentanyl, and TikTok. So it looks like it was a productive discussion. And maybe that is going to lead to some decent trade relations going forward with China as we get into the new administration. Carnival Cruise was up about 3.1%. Truist up 6% on the day. Amazing earnings for Truist. They deserve to be up. KRE, Regional Banking Fund, is up because of Truist as well, 1.16%. The Qs ended the day 1.69%. They were at 523 at the highs, 521.74 is where they ended. Next Decade was up another 0.5%. Enphase was up about 0.35%. Transmedics, this one still can't catch a bid at all, down about 1.4%. It tried to recover a little bit during the day, but could not do it. Red Cat got hit 15%. Again, I have not read the Carisdale Capital short report on Red Cat. This is a drone company for those that don't know. But I guess the market's not liking it right now. That one is down 15%. Uber was also down 1.81% of the day. I have no idea why Uber was down. On a day like this, Uber should not be down. So that was weird. Maybe that's just Tesla going up, Uber going down, but did not expect Uber to go down here. SMCI ended the day down 1%. Let's go to the semis. NVIDIA ended up 3%. AMD ended up 2.5%. ASML was up 1%. Broadcom was up, 3.5%. That's big for Broadcom. TSM was down about 2%. Qualcomm was up 1.94%. And then Intel having its best day in basically, I would say, 7 months, 9.25% on the day for Intel. Not bad. Not bad at all. There we go. All right, so question for everybody, and then we'll get into all the other headlines and stories that we're looking at. I think we'll get Steve on the show. We're going to see. He was stuck in meetings all day. He was on the show yesterday for like an hour, so I will text him and see if we can get him on, but if not, we got a bunch of other stories to look at. Question is, did you buy or sell anything today? Did you buy or sell anything today? Was today a day to take profits? Was today a day to sell some covered calls? TJ and I, back to doing our segment, we did sell 50 puts on Hood at 45. So far, those are doing okay. We have about a month until they expire, or 3 weeks. But that was the only move. Also, TJ got into Nubank. So TJ bought about 10,000 shares in Nubank. But outside of that, no other crazy moves. Phil is holding through the inauguration. Narome bought Rocket Lab. Harry got a Tesla call, Meta puts. Interesting. Meta puts. Krupa bought AMD, sold 2,000 shares of Serve. Player One day traded Rocket Lab with a 3% move. Not too bad. We got some Apples in the chat. We do have some coverage on Apple, and we're going to find out if there's any what of a bull case of Apple at these levels. Jason likes the technicals here. He thinks it's a bit oversold, but the China headline still is a bit concerning just in terms of their long-term growth in Q1. Davis said, I bought one Nubank spread for 27.30. Way too aggressive in your opinion. I don't think that's too aggressive. If you give yourself 2 years, I think Nubank can do well. One thing about Nubank, though, it is a $50 billion company. So it's one of those that, it is a big company, even though the share price looks like it's not at $10, $11. So that one just needs time to move and deal with all the Brazilian headwinds of their currency. But an incredible growth company. I mean, they're growing like 50%. Palantir Weekly will be tonight, correct? Palantir Weekly will be tonight. We got a lot to talk about, so we'll be live for Palantir Weekly. We got some people bought Riot, wrote a bull put credit spread on Intel. Okay, I like that. Not horrible. Got some Tesla right here. Sold IBIT 65 calls, rolled MicroStrategy 450 call for 1 week. IBIT as well, probably had a great day. Yeah, 59.62. I haven't started wheeling IBIT, but it is on the docket to wheel. Because at the end of the day, I would not mind at all holding IBIT. I think I have enough fundamental belief in the concept of Bitcoin to hold on to it via the ETF. And I also like the idea of IBIT because you can wheel it, right? So Bitcoin, you can't necessarily wheel, whereas IBIT, you have the ability to get some income from your Bitcoin itself. All right, so it seems like a decent amount of you bought some of these names, and some people took some opportunities to sell calls and trim a little bit. But overall, nothing too crazy to say. Where was the VIX today? I didn't even look at the VIX. VIX was down 4%. Does anyone feel like this is too good to be true? Does anyone feel like any of this is too good to be true? January 17th, market's not at all-time highs, but it's less than 2% away from all-time highs. Does anyone feel this is a little like, all right, things are really good? and it's a little scary that things are really good, or is that just an irrational fear? I mean, I feel like volatility is coming this year no matter what, but if Q4 crushes earnings, which already every single freaking bank has crushed earnings, I mean, and when you look at credit spreads, it's not like there's anything super scary from a macro perspective there. And that CPI report was amazing. It's like, I guess being cautiously optimistic is not the craziest approach to be taking to this market right now. Granted, we're only 17 days in, so we got a long time to go. Crowd Control bought Fartcoin. Let's check Fartcoin price because that is becoming a tradition on this channel. $1.4 billion market cap, up 3%. So I don't even know how you buy Fartcoin, dude. How do you buy this thing? Is this a Solana coin? Like, how does one even engage in the process of acquiring this asset class? I have no idea. People are taking money out of money market funds into equities. I mean, we definitely saw that yesterday with the $56 billion that left money market funds. And if that trend continues, especially after that CPI report, because now people think a rate cut is more likely than they did 2 weeks ago, which means that 4% yield is not going to be at 4% for a long time. And that potentially gets money off the sidelines. Obviously, the Trump pump is a real thing, and I do think that the market is getting excited for these Trump executive orders. I mean, the amount of reports that I've seen over the past couple of just days of all these different headlines of Trump's going to do this, Trump's going to do that from all these different sources around where the executive orders are going to come from, it does feel like the market's anticipating he's going to unleash Americanism, energy, crypto, deregulations galore, especially for the financial sector, and that should be the catalyst that a lot of the market is looking for to begin to think that we can price in stronger growth to justify and expand some of these multiples that we have on assets. Let's take a look at ETF inflows. So these are the top 10 ETFs in the United States of America over the past 17 days. So this was posted this morning, so let's call it 16 days. And VOO year to date has already done $13 billion in the first 11 trading days of 2025. I mean, that's pretty damn crazy, bro. That's more than 99.7% of ETFs took in all of last year. Let me say that again. VOO, which is basically the market, took in $13 billion, and that's more than 99% of all ETFs took in all of 2024. I don't know how you look at that and think that's bullish, because that's not all retail. You can't say retail is pumping $13 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money that's coming in. It's also 25% of all net flows and a mere $20 billion away from dethroning the S&P 500. If it keeps up this pace, it will take in about $280 billion this year. When you go down the list, VTI got $2.4 billion, TLT got $2.1 billion, SGov got $1.8 billion, and then you see some of the other ETFs here. It's pretty damn incredible, but VOO getting $13 billion also shows that the appetite to invest, even from an institutional perspective, is there. Because I mean, that's just not people on Robinhood putting money into VOO. That is, sophisticated fund managers, people that are allocating capital, people that are trying to position their clients in particular to potentially benefit from another monster year, maybe like 2024. That's money that's coming in. That is money that is absolutely coming in. So again, it's just hard to be super, super bearish on it. Hard to be super, super bearish. Why was Uber down? I don't know. And I don't accept that Tesla was up, Uber was down argument, because Tesla's been pumping Tesla's been doing fine for the past couple of weeks, and Uber's been doing fine too. Like, they've kind of been both okay. I know Tesla's been volatile, but what, does Tesla need to go to 390 for Uber to go back up? Like, I don't know. I don't think the Tesla argument is the reason why Uber was down. But I don't have another reason why Uber was down, so the Tesla argument is the best argument I can think of. I don't know. Maybe there's a different reason for it. I do think Uber is undervalued. I don't have a position in it. I don't think it deserves to be, trading at these low levels, but it's not the risk reward that it was at 60 or at 58. Now that it's at 67. Quantum slowly dying. I don't know if Quantum's dying. Definitely today, it was super risk on. I mean, the biggest element of risk on is Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin at 104.7 is definitely not risk off. So seeing Quantum not move at that was a bit concerning. IONQ down 7%, Rigetti down 12%, QUBT down 9%, and then D-Wave down 9%. Now, granted, they were down a lot more 3 days ago, and then they recovered with some massive 30% days yesterday, but they were not able to continue that pump going into Friday. Kalshi predicts a 38% chance of robotaxi launch for Tesla in 2025. Well, Elon did say California and Texas, they're going to launch it. So I'm assuming 100% chance of California and Texas gets the robotaxi this year. Maybe I'm way too optimistic there, but that's what Tesla said. And if we don't get that, I don't think it's going to be pretty. So we definitely do need to get that and get some updates on that going into earnings. That's the other scary thing about Tesla, dude. If they really don't deliver on earnings, not on the numbers, but on the broader promises of, yes, a $30,000 car is coming, and yes, unsupervised FSD in Texas and California is coming, then I don't know what the market's going to do with it. Now, granted, I don't think the market wants to take it all the way to 350, 340, 330 again because of how much bullishness we've seen from all the analysts on the street and the idea of FSD, robotics, et cetera. Like, that's getting really baked in and normalized into the price, in my opinion. And I don't think their numbers are going to be horrible. They probably won't be amazing. Maybe we'll inch out a little bit of year-over-year growth because Tesla's been flat the past 2 years. But we need those like macro fairy tale catalysts, those big dream ideas of FSD and the $30,000 car. We need progress on that, like real progress on that, I think, for the market to get more excited. Let's get an update from Mr. Dan Ives on where he sees this current market going and what he thinks about TikTok heading into the third trading week of 2025.
Olderly structured. We think Musk is going to play a key role in terms of X, and ultimately could buy this 40 to 50 billion. I believe it would be the price tag without the algorithm. Oracle could be involved as well. And look, this is a very important matter, and especially in terms of U.S.-China relations. And that's why the last thing that's going to happen here is that TikTok ultimately gets banned. They're going to work something out behind the scenes.
Dan, do you look at the social media stocks, the rival names selling off today, and what do you make of that?
Kelly, I think there was some open that this ban was actually going to happen. It was going to get enforced. Everyone knew the Supreme Court would ultimately, abide by this. And I think they're starting to realize the tea leaves. I can tell you about being the Beltway. They do not want this ban. This is a Pandora's box situation. That's why that's negative for Meta, negative for social media stocks. And ultimately, I think as this all plays out, this could be a positive if Musk ultimately really, wins this deal in some sort of consortium, that I believe other big tech players would be involved with as well.
Although we're starting to see them go back into the green. Meta, Pinterest, Snap is still fractionally lower. So maybe as this settles, Dan, maybe they're thinking, okay, maybe there's a chance. I mean, what's interesting is to watch the Chinese. If it has to be divested, but they don't choose to divest it, then that's it, game over. I mean, they could just shut it down. They could just decide not to go down that path.
Yeah, no doubt, Kelly. But that's why I think behind the scenes, you've seen Trump actively reaching out, what we've seen leaders in Beijing. I think also things behind the scenes, because they don't want to, if this got shut down, I mean, this could have a cascade effect, be negative, of course, for names like Apple, Tesla, and others. But it all comes out to 170 million U.S. consumers are on this. So they don't want this shut down. And that's why I think they're looking for workarounds around it. And I think even in the Beltway, they've recognized like it's a third rail issue as they've sort of set this in motion. I think this ultimately ends up in either an ownership or partnership with U.S. tech players. And that's why I think everyone's going to be focused on it. It's a golden asset to be going after TikTok. I think Musk front and center with X.
But Dan, I put myself in the shoes of a Google, of an Apple. These companies have to decide basically Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever the exact moment is, whether to allow people to download the apps from the App Store, right? They have to decide whether they're going to let notifications go through on device, whether they're going to continue to support them, technically speaking. So if I'm them, I need to know pretty clearly that I'm going to have legal cover for what to do or not do here. This is really tough territory for them to be in.
Oh, it's a huge quagmire. But I do believe this will not be enforced. That's something, I think ultimately through DOJ, and that they're going to have to communicate that these companies will not pay fines. Remember, it's also the hosting providers as well. But that's why I get the popcorn out. I mean, Sunday morning, but I do not expect that TikTok ultimately comes off of the App Store. I think that's right now, our view going into this weekend.
All right.
And it looks like that's going to be the case. It looks like that is going to be the case. Again, it's so weird. You go through all this drama, this whole saga. I mean, literally, our politicians spent so many months drafting up this bill. I just literally wasted tax dollars. Like, we were paying in America their salaries while they were drafting up this TikTok bill, and we got nothing from it. I mean, they could have got something else in the bill instead of TikTok, something that actually would have went into law. but it looks like that is not going to be the case. We're going to have Steve on in about 2 minutes, guys. Let me just play this one clip as well from CNBC. I actually didn't see this, but someone today called Robinhood one of their top picks. So let's get a little bit of coverage on that, and then we'll get Steve onto the show.
You can see shares are up over 5.5% right now, named the top pick at Morgan Stanley. And Kevin, you bought more of this stock, so good on you today.
Listen, we bought this stock last Friday at $40, and it's almost $49 today. So nothing to sneeze at right there. But we think there's a lot more potential for this stock. There's a maturation that's going on within this company. This isn't kids running around trading NFTs on their phone, although that's the infrastructure that's there. They made an acquisition for Trade PMR, which is a custodial platform that a lot of RIAs are using. They're building out education within their site, retirement plans. This is a company that's amazingly growth oriented. And when there's a transfer of generational wealth, it's the folks on Robinhood that are going to be the beneficiaries of that transfer. We really like the stock in our growth.
But Kevin,
portfolio.
in all fairness, you've all known this great wealth transfer is going to happen for quite some time. Is this a deregulation play in your mind? The idea with less regulation that this company has more room to grow, more room to expand into new markets and new businesses, like one you just mentioned?
Well, I think that they're going into the right businesses, not sports betting. So deregulation is going to help lots of companies within this space. But you want companies that are growing, and it's a huge, huge market share, and they only need a small portion of it.
All right, Brent, you also own Robinhood. I want to get your take on what Kevin has to say. The idea is that they're growing into
Shout out to Bryn. She's been on the Hood train for a while, so shout out to Bryn.
the right businesses. And also want to get your take. Do you believe that deregulation, is that a tailwind for this business long term? Of course, again, it seems like the elephant in the room, the inauguration's on Monday.
I mean, I really think the crypto market, specifically around the regulatory framework within crypto. So maybe it's not a deregulation, it's a regulatory framework, which we didn't have before. And so I think that will benefit both Coinbase and Robinhood. But because I think Robinhood has so many more public assets that are like stocks, and they are doing so much, they're giving like money back for IRAs, giving you a bump. I think it actually is going to infringe on Coinbase, and they can both be winners. And so I think the regulatory framework around crypto will be incredibly positive for Robinhood longer term.
Weiss, coming over to you while we're talking about crypto. You made some moves on crypto.
All right, there you go. The suits get it. The suits get it. I got to say, it is absolutely the craziest thing to see the trajectory of a stock in terms of its media coverage. All of us have seen this with Palantir, right? You know, $7, $8, it's a horrible company, and then it just turns into this big thing. And kind of the same thing with Robinhood here, but it is really cool to see the trajectory of it. Same thing with Tesla. I mean, at 100, 130 in April, including myself, sentiment was god awful. And if you believed in it and you just, you understood the fundamental thesis, slowly by slowly, the sentiment started changing, the upgrades started coming, and that, the stock just takes a life of its own. And if you're in it for the ride, then it can really be pretty incredible. So amazing stuff right there. Tesla at 426.5. Let's bring on one of our favorite analysts of the show and see if he bought anything today or if he was stuck in meetings. Steve, what's up?
Hello, Matt.
How are you?
Tired. How are you?
I'm good. You sound like a guy who's been in meetings all day.
Been in meetings all day.
So you probably haven't paid too much attention to the market.
Zero attention.
Well, we ripped. We ripped hard.
Good.
And I'm not just talking about Fartcoin ripping. I'm talking
I don't
about...
even know what that is. Did SoFi get above 17? Please tell me no.
SoFi's at 1650.
Thank God. Because I was stuck in a meeting where I really couldn't look at anything, and I had cover calls at 17. The only thing I looked at this morning was if my chances of having a roll or not occurred, and it didn't look like it was going to happen.
No, I think 17 was relatively safe. So you're good. I think we just lost him. Oh, no, there he is. Are you driving home, Steve?
I am. I'm almost home. Matt was just calling me. I just asked him if I could call him later.
Yo, this is like we're becoming all really good friends. You, me, Matt, we're just talking on the phone every single day at a different time. That's funny.
Have you seen the inflows?
For what? For ETFs?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually just showed a picture of it. VOO got 13 billion today.
Yeah.
Or not today, but this year.
Are you surprised?
I'm actually, I didn't expect the market to be that 13 billion is more than 99% of all ETFs in 2024.
it is an S&P index fund. Of course, it's going to get a bulk share.
No, I get that, but 13 billion by January 17th is like a decent amount, you know?
Don't forget, people are force buying every 2 weeks, and people are reallocating capital because there's much less of a bear case today than there was 6 months ago.
Yeah, that is fair. Okay, so then talk to me about this. We are heading into, this was the last day of the Biden administration stock market, by the way. So the next day the stock market will be open. We will have new leadership.
Which, let's give some credit, the market did phenomenal over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, look, the market did phenomenal over the past couple of years. Obviously, 2022 was tough. There's always going to be some tough years in any 4-year term. Yep. But the AI was definitely a big catalyst under Biden's presidency, and that definitely helped us as well as we eventually lowered rates. Here's my question. Do you think the market we're seeing right now, 2% away from all-time highs, is too good to be true?
You know, it's funny. Somebody came in my office, super smart woman, we were talking about it, and she said the same exact thing you just said. And I said, no. So the S&P is going to 7,000 or higher this year.
So you've been on that bandwagon for a while, and you don't think there's anything that's really stopping that thesis?
Unless you get a huge advancement in AI and robotics where 20% of the jobs get wiped away this year, then no, I don't.
See, I'm still not on board with 7,000 per se. I think
here's why. Day one, which is technically Monday, so let's see if it happens Monday or Tuesday, Keystone Pipeline opens back up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
You know that we're going to have massive deregulation and oil is going to drop. Input costs go down, transportation costs go down, and cost of fertilizer goes down, petrochemicals go down. Margins are going to expand. The Fed's going to cut another 2 times. I think they're bluffing. I think it's more 3 or 4 times.
I agree.
Plus the capital goes down.
Yep.
So margins are going to expand. Companies are also going to tap the debt markets because cost of capital is more efficient and less interest expense. When that happens, they're going to spend on goods and services. That's very bullish for a lot of the S&P. I don't see a bear case unless you get geopolitical tensions.
And with the Israel and Hamas news, it looks like some of that is starting to boil down geopolitically as well.
Like I said, unless you get geopolitical tensions or something happens, I'm not seeing a bear case because I think that, once again, things are going to be handled a little bit differently. And I think that there's going to be certain policies that come in to help things. And if you have an economy where input costs are going down and interest rates are going down, that becomes a very pro-growth economy.
I agree. And I was actually reading some stuff today about this concept of the market's perception of stock prices is always based on how much they think the window of opportunity is for further expansion of growth. That's why this whole M&A IPO thing is so important for the banks. If Trump really does signal to the market that it's time to grow out of our problems, it's hard to imagine equities not reflecting that in their stock prices as well.
Citigroup just gave a 10% bonus or increased the bonus structure by 10%, I believe, to their deal makers. Like, they're going to be, companies are going on the hunt this year for M&A and to get deals done.
Meaning if you work at Citi and you broker a deal, you get a bonus at the end of the year.
I didn't read it. I just saw the headline. I'm sure you can find it, but I am pretty sure that's what the headlines said that I read.
Yeah, I see it right now. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
There's going to be, and look, one of the areas I've been investing in that people are overlooking are business development corporations. And it's a different subset of financials. And I think that they're going to do very well this year. I think financials are going to do very well. Obviously, we saw what Goldman did. I mean, the people don't know how to drive, by the way.
You're the best driver in the world, right? You're the only one.
Probably not better than your auto bullshit from Tesla.
Oh, no, dude. I just went out. I had to go get something. It was a 20-minute drive. Dude, I cannot tell you how in love I am with FSD.
Okay.
Like, Steve, I'm telling you, bro, like, you got to believe me on this, or better yet, you got to experience it. I think I'm going to pay the $8,000 and buy. Well, I'm going to pay the $99 a month to keep it, but eventually I'm going to pay the $8,000 and buy. Like, it is so relaxing to not have to worry about driving. Like, I can't explain it, dude. It's just, it is unbelievable, the experience of not having to make the turn or take the exit on the highway and just know that this thing's going to do it for you.
You should just stop while you're ahead at the moment.
Well, I'm gonna get you on an FSD ride, and eventually you'll feel it. You will feel it, dude. You're gonna change your mind. Everyone will change their mind eventually. They will. Okay, we got a question in the chat. Someone's saying, "What are Steve's thoughts for Nvidia going into this new administration?"
It's going to be pretty good.
You think there's no volatility from Trump with the semiconductors at all?
I don't think this year matters. I think this year's already done for. I mean, there's just too much demand right now for anything else to matter unless something big happens. But I mean, look, it goes back to everything I've been saying about Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and Alphabet. And we're going to see over the next 3 weeks what everybody says on the earnings calls. But the bottom line is Microsoft is not allocating $80 billion to CapEx. They're allocating $80 billion to data centers. There's a big difference. That means their CapEx is going to be more than $80 billion. $80 billion just in data centers. None of these other companies are letting Microsoft do this without responding. The amount of demand, and that's just from 4 companies, the amount of demand for these chips is going to be incredible. There is no competition, and they're not done building out data centers. So until that day comes, I think there's still another year or two before we really have to worry about the cycle getting commoditized.
By the way, you're right. We're looking at a headline from Microsoft's blog right now. Microsoft is on track to invest approximately $80 billion to build out AI-enabled data centers. So that's not just CapEx. That's pure data centers.
And that's not CapEx. That's just data centers.
Yes. Correct.
And that comes after everything that they bought. So there is no way that anybody's going to convince me, except Jensen saying himself, that demand is slowing, that demand is going to slow. There's just no way you can convince me of that because of what the biggest companies are doing. And you follow the money, and the money is moving toward more chips, and they're the only ones that have these chips.
I agree. A couple other headlines for you because you didn't look at the market. Did you look at Schlumberger today? We lost him. He's bad connection. Okay, you're back.
Well, I just pulled into the nudge. But yeah, I know it's up 20-25% since I put that article out and I called the bottom.
It's up 6% today on earnings.
Yeah.
I mean,
because everybody expects more drilling and more production.
So
I mean, it's not rocket science.
For the audience, again, this is not necessarily oil and gas. This is servicing oil and gas, correct?
So it's an oil and gas derivative play because it's oil field services. But basically what the big play here is that if you think production is increasing, this is a lot of well construction and drilling, rigs, all that stuff. AI services with drilling. I mean, this is where you want to be if you think production is going to increase, because the price of oil doesn't necessarily matter because they're not the ones that are actually doing the production.
Right.
It's the same theory as midstream operators.
Oh, it was a hell of a pick. I gave you credit in the morning. Just absolutely incredible pick. Guys, Seeking Alpha for Steve. I'm putting his link right there in the chat. So for those asking for the article, you can click it right there. But it did well. I personally have a friend who's been loading up on it because he watches the show, and literally he bought it because of you, and he's done very well. So not bad.
That makes me happy because, you know, it's still undervalued.
Also, ET, a couple people in the chat saying that one's done very well for them as well. That was at 15 last year.
Yeah.
Right now we're at
ET,
20.
I mean, I remember when it went to 6. I mean, it's just that company's going higher too.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a super chat right here. I'm Beneficial said, can you ask Steve about MPW or IIPR at these levels?
I have no idea what any of those companies are.
MPW is medical prop. You know medical prop. MPW.
Oh, M. I thought you said NPW.
No, M.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that they have to tap the credit line to pay some of their tenant stuff. So I don't know. I got to see what happens in the next quarter earnings.
Got you. Medical properties. This is a REIT for hospitals, right? I'm pretty sure.
Let me get back on in 5 minutes when I get upstairs. I'm going
cool.
in and out in the basement.
All right, cool. Guys, we just got a new Pltr video that came out. Oh, it's 51 minutes. Okay, this is a long one, but Karp and Global Head of Commercial Ted Mabry talking about Karp's new book. I'm going to play this. We'll let it play until Steve gets back on. And after Steve, we'll leave, then we'll go back to it. But here you go. This just dropped. Karp talking about the book. This is the first Pltr content we've gotten all year. So let's pull this up. We'll finish it after Steve comes back in like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll keep going from there. Here we go.
You could possibly have, whether you went to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or a school online. Once you're here, you just went to Palantir. Envisioned a way of building products that everyone derided, meaning customer to product, extending the range and amplitude and power of that product. In many ways, and in fact, presupposed the rise of AI, both algorithmic and LLMs, not just as a matter of theory, but in the product, was the most important culture to say what is now becoming increasingly obvious, that pagan versions of prejudicial thought are no more interesting if they're on the left or on the right, and has become a juggernaut in tech, as expressed by getting on the S&P and our other various successes.
Karp definitely wanted to say, as expressed by getting on the S&P, and the fact that our stock is on the moon right now. He definitely wanted to say that. He didn't say that, rightfully. He shouldn't have said that, but he definitely wanted to say that.
And there's a way this company is organized that no other company in the world is organized. Really no other company in the world. The closest things you can find to the way Palantir is organized is special operations and 1 or 2 clandestine services in the world. No other, I interact with, we all interact with lots of companies, many great companies. And what I would hope happens with this book is the West especially learns how to reorganize to build institutions like Palantir. And so, yeah, with that's why we're here.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I'm most excited about the book, riffing on that, is that I expect it will improve Palantir's performance, because it will essentially accelerate the journey for everyone at Palantir to understand what it is we do, and more importantly, why it is that it's done, which for me has been kind of a...
But why do you think that? Because I thought that was, what was it that you saw in the book as like an accelerant to, because again, I think the hardest thing in the indoctrination process of Palantir, first of all, was always everyone thought we were going to fail. So it's hard to change how you see something when everyone's like, well, changing how you see something is a great way to have fun here, but it's not exactly preparation for your future life. But even if you believe, as I think certainly most outsiders believe this, and think it's, like there's a way in which you organize that actually can work, it's still very dissonant to anything you may have done at any institution, or it is.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the primary thing of my journey, 15 years here, is most of the things that I value about that time most are the unlearning of the things that I thought I had to learn.
And so, what kind of unlearnings, and what do you think is in the book?
Well, especially alongside before it was successful and then it's successful, a lot of the internal dissonance is you're doing something completely differently than a normative way of how you're supposed to do it. We aren't successful yet. That must mean we're doing it wrong. So we have to change the way that we're doing things. And then, but
what is dissonant? I mean, like a lot of people here are so, I mean, most people here are so early to Palantir that they don't even know. Like, I mean, I could give you my version of this. I'm very happy I'll start with my version of this. And then it's like, a normal institution, or normal as defined by an institution that I don't believe is ideally suited for building software production, is organized around essentially the endpoint being the point of value extraction is where analysts say the software is valuable, because it basically, in often a parasitic way, grafts onto an institution and turns the lower quality fluids into higher quality fluids by essentially throwing off a higher margin and a higher growth rate, where the host can no longer get rid of the parasitic entity. And there's a famous, and that's, but then you work back from how you would do that. Palantir absorbs the risk of the institution's own set and needed outcomes. So if you work back from the clandestine agency or the special forces or a bank or an intelligence service, what is it that institution seeks to do? And what is the output that would allow it to do that in software production that would both reconcile its core mandate and then deepen?
Okay, we will go back to that. We're gonna this is 50 minutes, guys. We only got through 5 minutes of it. We will finish all 50 by the end of the market close. Whoever wants to stay can stay with me, but we'll get Steve back on and talk markets for like another 20 minutes, and then we'll get back to Karp. Steve, you're back.
Were you just playing a video of Karp?
It's a brand new 50-minute lecture that he's giving.
You know, can you just one time play something at Brad Garlinghouse, please?
Steve, I'm going to tell you something. No. Let me tell you something very clearly.
I want you to interview this guy bad.
Never mention Brad Garlinghouse and Alex Karp in the same sentence again, please.
Why? Because XRP has a bigger market cap than Palantir?
You know what? That should tell you everything you need to know about XRP. I really do think that should tell you.
I just want you to interview the guy. And I've been saying that before this started going up.
I'll interview him if you agree to never mention him in the same realm of Alex Karp. That's all. Then I'll interview him. By the way, Walgreens is down 9% after hours. What the hell is going on with Walgreens?
Yeah, Walgreens is no bueno is what that is.
Someone said they were getting investigated for illegitimate prescriptions.
Well, that's not good.
Oh, wow. Hold on. I got the quote. So the Justice Department said, our complaint alleges that Walgreens pharmacists filled millions of controlled substance prescriptions with clear red flags that indicated the prescriptions were highly likely to be unlawful, and that Walgreens systematically pressured its pharmacists to fill prescriptions, including controlled substance prescriptions, without taking the time needed to confirm their validity. These practices allowed millions of opioid pills and other controlled substances to flow illegally out of Walgreens stores.
That's not good at all.
Dude, that's like bad.
That's bad. I agree. That's no good.
That is not. They had a really good earnings too, but that's
yeah,
tough.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know a lot of people have been chasing Walgreens. If you search it on Twitter, everyone thinks it's a 10-bagger because the sentiment is so bad. But sometimes sentiment is bad.
Just because sentiment is bad, just like I've been saying about maybe good news is good news. Sometimes bad news is bad news.
Dude, people love bottom fishing. That's the thing.
Listen, I love bottom fishing too. The difference is when I do it, I'm looking at stuff that has huge cash flow that the market, I believe, is wrong on, not something where they're clearly closing stores and having issues.
Yeah, because I think one thing that's very important in the stock market is that if you go against the market, aka Palantir at 7, you have to know something the market doesn't know.
Yeah, like look at Schlumberger. Perfect example. Nobody else liked it. It was at a 52-week low or around the 52-week low when I wrote about it. But if you actually read the article I put out, I went through the financials and the fundamentals, what they're doing with AI, the oil market, and what the EIA was saying the oil market was going to do on a production and consumption level over the next year. And I made a case of why I think it's incorrect, because they should see increased margins and increased revenue. Walmart, there is not a very good argument.
Walgreens.
Walgreens. You know what I mean? There's not a good argument to be made on that. It's just they're closing stores. It's a more difficult business. You have Amazon coming in. You have Cuban's company Cost Plus, whatever it's called, coming in. There's more competition.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned, because I've been wrong so many times, that if you're going to go against the market, you better know something the market doesn't know, which is not easy. It's not easy to know
And how
something.
about this? When you cut the dividend and reduce the dividend, that's never a good sign. Okay, that means something is going very wrong. And look, sometimes companies do it because they say, you know what, it's more beneficial for shareholders to reallocate that capital to pay down the debt. That way we don't have the interest expenses and all that other stuff, which is fine. But Walgreens did it for a different reason. And it's just not good.
Let's not forget, Walgreens was the only pharmaceutical chain that gave Theranos access to their Arizona facilities. So
The old Elizabeth Holmes.
yeah, when you talk about the biggest fraud of the century, or one of the biggest frauds of the century, people thought they would get their blood, and they had all these different issues because of faulty fake machines from Theranos via Walgreens. You know, it just says something about the culture more than anything, I think.
Well, how about a little company called Intel that nobody likes except for me?
So let's talk about that. You know why they're up today, right?
Yeah, I know that they're up because there's some report that came out about potential takeover. And I told you that was going to happen come the inauguration because Qualcomm killed what they were working on because they wanted to see what a new FTC and SEC would be like as far as M&A. So,
okay, but I'm a little scared of this pump because if it doesn't get bought out, then what's the point of this 9% pump, right?
what's the market cap after the pump?
90 billion, 92.
Okay, nothing for Intel. I mean, it's still, regardless of a takeover, it's still too low.
Wait, so who do you think is going to buy them then?
Look, there's a couple of companies that I think could buy them. There's one, I don't know if a Qualcomm, even with a looser environment, would be allowed to buy them because, look, if you really dig into Qualcomm, and I have not dug into them as much as I should, but I know somewhat about their patents and stuff. They have so many patents in 5G and CDMA technology, and their Snapdragon chip is huge in mobile devices. I'm not sure that they're going to be allowed to acquire Intel because not only will they have a chokehold on mobile, they'll also have a chokehold on computers. I don't know that will go through, but I do think a different company could purchase them.
Wait. Let's guess. So not Qualcomm, right?
No, look, Qualcomm has the money to. I just don't know if that would pass regulatory stuff. I just don't know.
Okay, so everybody put in the chat who you think Steve's going to say.
I got three companies that I think could be an acquirer.
Okay, so put three guesses in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, put three guesses in the chat. I'll do three. I'm going to go and just you can wait till after I go to see if it's right. I'm going to go IBM as one of my choices. I'm going to go, I got to say Apple because they have all the cash. And then I'm going to go wild card. The easy answer is NVIDIA, but I'll say Broadcom. IBM, Apple, or Broadcom.
Okay, so you got 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
All right. So IBM is not one of them. They are a runner-up in this in my mind, out of the 3 I'm thinking of. And the reason they're a runner-up, if this was IBM 2 years ago, they would have been the number 1 or 2 company. But the fact that they got rid of the legacy business, they spun it off, and they're really not doing anything on that. They have a small mainframe business that they're still doing for all the transactions that they do, but they're mainly a consulting and cloud business now and AI. They're not legacy anymore. So they're runner-up. Could they do it? Sure. I don't think that's probable. Apple's number 3 out of the top 3. And the only reason is because I don't see them doing this type of acquisition, but it would make sense because then they're completely vertically integrated and they can just take their schematics and their designs and produce everything in-house for their stuff. I mean, they could. I don't know that it makes sense for them. Broadcom is number 2, who yes, I could. But Alphabet is the
Huh.
one that I think
We got a bunch
would
of
make a
people
lot of
that said
sense.
Google in the chat.
Yeah, because look, Alphabet, it doesn't skip a beat from a cash flow perspective. They have a huge balance sheet. They could acquire Intel right now, and then they become in a great position for all the tablets and phones that they make, where they can use it as a negotiating tool to drag Qualcomm's prices down, or they can start designing their own chips. But it also allows them to really advance quantum, having Intel's infrastructure.
Ah.
And they have the free cash flow to pull off the foundry business without anything mattering.
Correct.
And I think it's a huge strategic play, because if Alphabet then, and think about this, if Alphabet has the foundry business and Intel server chips, okay, they're now at cost outfitting their data centers with those server chips, because guess what? You don't just build data center with NVIDIA's GPUs. You still need servers, you still need server chips, you still need firewalls, you still need switches, you still need cabling, you still need all the components. So their costs go down on all their data centers, and they now control a large portion of the chip market. It becomes a very strategic acquisition that will add a ton of free cash flow in a couple of years to their business.
I love the argument for Google. I really do.
It's a great fit. When you think about something that's a great fit into their ecosystem, this is a great fit into their ecosystem.
I think it makes a lot of sense. So the question is then, do you really think a deal gets done? What does your gut say?
I think that a deal's more likely to get done with Alphabet than somebody else, because when it comes down to it, this doesn't expand any of their current products that anybody cares about. This has nothing to do with search, has nothing to do with advertising or multimedia. So there's no regulatory issue. They don't really have a chip business other than what they're building for their own stuff. So the consumer doesn't get hurt at all.
I think the market would love it, bro, because Google has such a focus on ads and like.
Think about how much cash Alphabet has on the balance sheet. What's the number? Because I'm not in front of a computer yet.
I think it's like 130 billion. Let me see.
It's something big, and I do believe it's in that range.
Google has it's looking like 145.
And that's cash and short-term investments. That's not even whatever they have in long-term investments.
Yeah.
They could write a check tomorrow for the company and give them a 20-25% premium of what the share price is right now, and still have cash on the books with almost no debt. And after all the increased CapEx that they're spending, still generating $50 billion a year in CapEx. I'm sorry, in free cash flow. So figure that they need to spend $5 billion a year in free cash flow to get the foundry business up and running. Doesn't even make a dent.
Oh, it doesn't even make a dent.
They're the perfect suitor for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if the pump lasts on Intel because of this rumor, but I definitely think this rumor has legs behind it. If you get the right suitor in Google.
Yeah, I mean, look, and even what's the worst case scenario that happens? Whatever it is falls apart. Intel becomes a standalone company, which it already is, and then they make a decision if they have to spin out the foundry business or not. And if they have to spin out the foundry business, they spin it out and they focus solely on chips, which may not be the worst thing in the world.
Agreed on Intel.
So I think Alphabet's a very good possibility as a suitor.
And you don't think NVIDIA would buy them?
I don't think they'll be allowed to.
Mm.
I don't think A would be allowed to. I don't think AMD would be allowed to. I don't even think AMD could, but NVIDIA wouldn't be allowed to. Nobody's going to let them own the entire GPU market on high end, most of the GPU market on the middle end, in addition to taking over the CPU and server market. I mean, look, it would be a great upgrade for NVIDIA in the fact that then people are probably hating that I use the word upgrade, but it would be an upgrade because think about it. You go and start a data center, you need server chips, not just GPUs. Now they can make an all-in-one cluster with not just the GPUs, but also the server chips, because almost all those data centers are powered by Intel Xeon anyway. So now you make an all-in-one cluster with every component you need. Nobody's going to let them do that.
By the way, we got a headline right here. U.S. government awards Moderna $590 million for bird flu vaccine development.
Woohoo.
That came out 10 minutes ago. Okay, so what about ARM? Do you think ARM could buy them or SoftBank?
No. SoftBank, yes. ARM, no.
Yeah, I think SoftBank's more likely than ARM.
ARM does $3.5 billion in revenue. I mean, come on.
Also, TSM, I don't think would be a good buyer.
No, and I think that they wouldn't even be allowed because it's overseas. Nobody in the U.S. is going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I didn't even say them, because it would make a lot of sense for them to buy them. And the sleeper, the dark horse, would be Texas Instruments. I just don't think they have a big enough balance sheet, but maybe they could get investors or private equity to come in. But Texas Instruments would be a very interesting deal. People always forget about that company, and I don't know why.
Dude, the only thing I know about Texas Instruments is that they made the calculators.
The TI-85s? Yeah, well.
Dude, when I was in high school, the calculators, bro, Texas Instruments. But yeah, I haven't looked into them much more than that. Okay. So overall, you think S&P to 7,000 still on the table? You think markets are doing okay? CPI is good. Probably getting 4 cuts.
Yeah,
Big tech earnings.
and let's be very clear. I'm not saying it's going to 7,000 in a straight line. I think that there very well could be retracements. There could be dips. And look, I don't know what the future holds, but it could do that. And I think it's more probable that we hit 7,000 than retracing to 5,500 or so. There's too much set up well. But look, things can change. We have global conflict happen. That throws everything out the window.
Yeah. Someone said I still have my TI-82. Yeah, that's an old one. Okay, so Palantir. Do you think it deserves to be back at 72, or how are you?
No, I think it deserves to be a 172.
Okay, Steve. See, this is the progression of your character when it comes to Palantir.
What do you mean?
When it goes up, you get sarcastic. When it goes down, you get serious. And
yeah, I mean, because why can I be serious? How can I be serious when it's where it is?
Well, you want to know why? Because it was disclosed today that Palantir spent $1.4 million on lobbying.
Woohoo!
It was disclosed in Q4 in a new Lobbying Disclosure Act filing, meaning these government contracts are potentially on the way.
Yes. Woohoo. Great. I still, once again, maybe they get to $1 billion in free cash flow for 2024, which would be awesome.
Hold on. No, they will. They already got it. That's happening no matter what.
And they said 800 million to $1 billion free cash and adjusted free cash flow. We're talking high end. So maybe they get there, and I want them to because I love this company. Okay, I would be a shareholder forever. Love this company, but they're getting at a valuation that just does not make sense. And they need so much growth.
You're wrong. They officially raised guidance. We are raising our adjusted free cash flow guidance in excess of $1 billion.
All right, great, good. I hope they do. They're still trading if they do that at 160 times free cash flow.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
You know, I did buy Palantir recently. I bought 20 shares at 67.
That doesn't count.
Did you hear why I bought it?
No, but okay, why?
I had an odd number of shares, and it was annoying me for the past couple of months.
I've done that so many times.
I was just so pissed off. I was like, dude, I don't care. I'm biting the bullet.
And the worst is when it happens with dividend stuff, because you're always thinking that. Like SL Green is such a weird freaking number for me, and I don't want to buy it here. But I'm like, the problem is if I buy more and I get it rounded up, next month it's going to get screwed up anyway. So
Yeah. So okay, what earnings guidance do they have to give in terms of growth rate for you to be excited at $70? Like upwards of 40%?
I mean, if they give guidance of upwards of 40%, I can get excited about holding this for the next 5 or 10 years. I can't get excited about the share price right now. It truly doesn't make sense. And the reason I would get excited about the next 5 or 10 years is because at a 40% growth rate in a world where margins could keep expanding, in the next 10 years, they could get to a valuation where it is significantly higher than where it is today on a conservative basis. And that would mean that all the growth is not priced in yet. But they would need to really guide, and not just a one-year guide, but a multi-year guide. Because look, the bottom line is, if they get to $5 billion of free cash flow, they're still at this point trading at over 30 times free cash flow, which is kind of expensive, but not really expensive. But that's still growing another $4 billion in free cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we talked about this all the time, and maybe it's just always going to be expensive regardless.
And it very well may be. Tesla's valuation makes no sense. Everybody's pricing in an uncertain future, and it may pan out, it may not. But right now, I think Palantir is at a point where it could legitimately go over 100 if they have a great earnings call and give great guidance. This could easily go over 100. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a good valuation for new investors to come in at.
Dude, if we see 100 after earnings, bro,
we could.
That would be wild.
Listen, if they're fucking increasing guidance, they're expecting a big quarter.
Well, I'm not expecting 40% growth. I'm expecting closer to 32 to 33 for fiscal 2025.
And if they do that, it's going to be a crapshoot of what happens after hours.
I don't know if that's the case, dude. If they guide for, let's say, 32%, I don't know if it tanks 20% after hours if they do that. I really don't know.
We'll see. You know what? We got 3 or 4 weeks until we find out.
We do.
It's going to be really interesting.
Dude, hasn't it been a crazy journey? All of us just following this company for years, like been basically 4 years at this point. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, this company's great.
The company's incredible. I think they're just hitting their stride. Karp's got this book coming out. I mean,
we just need Andrew to come public.
Oh, so what do you think of Andrew?
Listen, I'm a Palmer Luckey fan. I especially like the way that he ripped into Calacanis at the All-In Summit.
I was just about to say that.
I'll always be a fan of his.
That was the.
Oh, he's the best. Palmer Luckey's awesome, and he's basically Dr. Doom, which is so cool.
Explain that. Explain what you mean by Dr. Doom.
Comic book villain Dr. Doom is basically Dr. Doom.
Oh, that's what you mean. Gotcha.
Yes.
I know who Dr. Doom is.
Like, he's got every freaking gadget there is.
I thought you meant Dr. Doom I thought you meant it in a different way. I thought you meant he's constantly warning us about bad things that could happen.
Think about everything that Andrew makes. And then you think about where warfare goes over the next 10, 20 years. You have to think that at some point we're not having human operated aircraft in the sky. Everything is going to be drones. So who benefits the most out of that? Andrew and Palantir.
So their last valuation was 15 billion. Would you buy a 30 billion IPO?
30 billion IPO. I mean, I don't know any of the numbers around it. Even if I didn't like the valuation, I'd probably buy a little bit just to be a shareholder. But full well knowing that I could lose money, I wouldn't put a lot in if I didn't like the valuation. But I would buy it just to be a shareholder type thing.
So Bloomberg said they did $1 billion in revenue in 2024, growing 100%. So they're trading at 15 times sales right now is basically what they're trading at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's crazy considering that I see a path where the whole military could get completely overhauled with a lot of things, and not just ours or NATO. So I think that there's a lot of growth on the horizon for them. And you look at RTX and Lockheed and what they do in numbers. Yeah, I think Anduril could be right place, right time, and the next iteration of defense.
My
So,
only bearish case is there's not a commercial avenue to the business yet. So you're literally just buying a defense contractor, hoping they keep.
have you seen the numbers that Lockheed Martin does?
Yeah, well, the past 2 years have been relatively unstable for the world, which is why Lockheed's been in a good spot.
Yeah, even in times of peace, we still spend a ton because we stockpile everything. We're
Dude,
not
Lockheed Martin's up.
slowing down.
Dude, it's up 15% in the past 5 years. You can't tell me in times of peace everything's okay.
Just
for Lockheed.
look at the revenue. How much revenue does Lockheed Martin?
I don't care about the revenue. I care about the stock. The stock's up 15% in 5 years.
Okay. All I'm saying is you look at the amount of revenue they do. In times of peace, we still spend on ammo and modernization. That's all I'm saying. Nothing to do
No,
with
you're
stock
right
price.
about that. You're right about that.
Nothing to do with stock price, and that's good for Anduril in a time where we are probably going to be modernizing the entire military.
Yeah, I mean, so then because that's the question. Do you buy Anduril just off the idea of defense alone? Because again, Palantir has the commercial part of their business, which is like, to me, an unlimited TAM.
Look what happened in Trump's first term. He spent a lot on upgrading stuff with the military.
No, he did. You're right. He did.
And that didn't stop when look, as a country, it doesn't matter what political party you are affiliated with. The bottom line is the military-industrial complex has only grown under both types of leadership. Do we really think that that's going to stop?
No, and also, I mean, Palmer Luckey had this really good line on an interview yesterday. He said, in 7 days, if we got into a war with China, we would lose all of our ammunition. So, like, the idea is we really do need to build a lot more than what we've currently built. Just in case.
If Trump is if he's serious about NATO paying their fair share and all this other stuff, what do you think he's going to do with the money he collects from them?
Just put it into defense, yeah.
It's going into defense one way or another.
So that's bullish down
at least a portion of it. Yeah, I mean, there's things that are good for these companies.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I would be a buyer.
Also, Palmer Luckey's just cool, bro. He's just.
You don't bet against those types of people.
I agree. You do not bet.
You know, the guy sold Reality Labs to freaking Zuckerberg. I don't know if that's actually true, if that was the name of it, but the whole VR headset, it was Oculus. I'm sorry, yeah. Oculus. He sold to Zuckerberg for $1 billion. I mean, this guy's an innovator. You don't bet against people like that. They find a way to win and advance.
I agree. I agree with that. You know, a politician bought $100,000 of Fortinet today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name is Michael McCowell. He's a representative. House Committee of Homeland Security.
All that stuff is going up in 25.
Cybersecurity?
All of it.
Why?
Because when you look at the amount companies are spending on cybersecurity, the amount that cybersecurity costs individuals and companies on an annual basis, and the sophistication of threats with hacking groups, everybody is spending more on cybersecurity. Fortinet is a vertically integrated platform where it has the hardware in addition to the software on the knock and sock. So their numbers are great. They keep growing. They were undervalued. I think it just keeps going higher.
I think long cybersecurity next 5 years can't be a wrong play.
You know, Cloudflare is a great company. I don't really like the valuation, but a lot of people that I know think that that is going to be the biggest out of all of them going forward. So we'll see.
Someone said, do you think Google should buy Uber?
No.
Why?
They don't need Uber. If Waymo works, they can just build whatever they want to build. They don't need Uber. Like, I don't understand why people think Uber's relevant. It's the same thing as Tesla buying Uber. Why? They'll just build their own freaking network. These guys have the best engineers in the world. They can rebuild Uber pretty quickly. What do you need? A dispatch station and an app for pickups and drop-offs? I mean, come on.
Well, I do think the network effects of 150 million users is valuable. I wouldn't say
That would be the only thing, is buying the already built infrastructure just for the user accounts. Otherwise, you can recreate everything. And also, Google doesn't even need their infrastructure. Half the country has an Alphabet freaking phone with a Gmail account and everything already set up on their phone. Everybody uses Google Maps anyway. Well, they have all the information. It would be too easy for them to rebuild it. It would just be, in a race, is it quicker to buy Uber or not? And they may deem that a business decision that's worth it, to come first to market. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth it.
SMCI, are you still bullish?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm either going to be really right or really wrong on this, and we're going to find out in 2 weeks.
Chris likes this as well, right? You both, even Matt, all three of you like this.
I don't know how much they like it. I know I like it because I talked to somebody who I cannot say a lot about, but basically the person has worked in the field in auditing, and he said to me that this could be just a nothing burger. And when he explained to me like all the things that can go wrong and the types of oversights that happen that are actually normal occurrences, and
so let me just, before you continue, let me read Sachin's tweet. He had a tweet on this last night. He said, SMCI is not out of the woods, in my opinion, and earnings are super critical. Basically, Ernst & Young has doubted financials enough to depart publicly, which is an extreme position. And since then, management has based on internal investigations, nothing is wrong. Both can't be true at the same time. How do you resolve that? That Ernst & Young...
Yeah, one of them is going to be right and one of them is going to be wrong.
And so you trust management at that point over Ernst & Young?
What I am saying is that there's a 50% chance of this being right. And for the amount of money that I put in, losing 50% of it does not matter to me.
That's fair.
And I'm willing to take a 50% haircut because if this goes south, it's not going south by 10%. I'm willing to take a 50% haircut on what I put in because the upside outweighs that risk. Because if this goes right, this goes to 60 or 70 pretty quickly. So it's a risk reward. This is a gamble. This is like betting the Yankees minus 110. Like, it's very good odds, where I'm just at the point where their revenues are great. The growth is very good. You have increased demand across the board. They make the right products at the right time. And they're in a position where their biggest client is seeing unprecedented growth. So the only thing I have to worry about is the financials. And I'm going to take management at their word. Now, they may be bullshitting just to buy time, but who knows? Ernst & Young could have dropped them just because they don't want to be associated with it. They could have dropped them for many reasons.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So none of us have the information. This is a straight crapshoot, and I'm basically betting that a 7 is not going to come out. And I have the point is a 4, not a 6. So I basically have 3 outs versus or 4 outs versus 3 outs versus 6 outs. So
I don't know what the hell you just said with the numbers, but
well, a 7 has 6 combinations of coming out on the dice. So you crap out with a 7 and basically 6 chances of crapping out. 4 comes up 3 different ways. So I got 3 chances of being right. So I just stacked against me. That's why the upside is so much greater than the downside.
okay, you're coming to Atlantic City with me. So
I told you how to play craps. It's all math. It's all math, and you look for controlled shooters. You don't look for people that throw wild. You look for people who set the dice a certain way, throw the dice a certain way. And even though a lot of people don't think that that means anything, there are actually people that spend hours getting their throw the same way, their delivery the same way. And while that may or may not do anything, maybe it does.
Steve, do you know what a W2G form is?
W2G? No, I do not.
So I found out this week, if you win anything in
Oh,
Vegas,
the gambling form? Yes.
I didn't know you had to pay taxes on your gambling.
What are you talking about? Of course you do.
I swear on my life, I thought if
Yeah,
you win,
so no. So basically, they'll send you a 1099 at the end of the year. But if you win a lot, I think the number's over 10,000, they issue you a form right there on the spot. And they take withholdings out on the spot, normally 20-25%. And then I forgot what it's called, W2J. And then it just recognized in my head. And then you have to pay more at the end of the year.
I thought if you win $100,000 in a night in Vegas, you leave Vegas with $100,000. That's what I thought.
Dude.
Like,
seriously?
I really did not believe this is what happens.
So, look, there are ways to get around it. If you win $100,000 across 20 tables, and maybe you can walk out of there, maybe. But if you win a substantial amount of money at one table, they're tracking everything. So no, like you would have to really skate. Let's just use blackjack as an example. You would have to hit up 20, 30, 40 different tables at 5 casinos to where no one place had you winning enough in a certain amount of time to issue a form. And I mean, nobody's leaving it here to do that. So.
Yeah, dude. Jason told me over the break, on Tuesday for technology, and I was just like, what? Do you have to pay taxes on this?
Yeah, of course. You got to pay taxes on everything.
I thought Vegas was the one place they let you go, and they're like, all right, you're good.
No.
They take all of our money, Steve. They take all of our money.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell you this. Have I not been trying to tell you this?
No, you have. You absolutely have.
And do not try to cheat your taxes. It never ends well.
No, there's no... Dude, I'm getting ready. Like, I'm preparing.
Pay the government what you owe them.
Yeah, that's why I keep thinking about taxes so much, because I'm getting ready to pay the most amount of taxes in my entire life. And it's just like...
It only gets worse.
It only gets worse. All right, I think that's it. Nothing else in the markets. Nothing too crazy going on. I guess the only other thing was Apple, just to get your quick thoughts on that. A little bit of a rebound here. I think we talked about it a couple of days ago, but
Listen, let's see what the quarter. Let's see what their numbers are. Let's see what the guidance is. Let's see what they say. Even if Apple retraces, I'm always long Apple because you know what? They prove everybody wrong time and time again. So we got to see what they say. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more skeptical, but
you're always skeptical, but this is, nothing new.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it. So Steve is not going to be at the Saturday meetup because he doesn't want to see any of you guys in person. But
I have prior plans. I'm sorry.
I will be at the Saturday meetup, so it'll be fun. And
did you figure out where you're going?
Yeah, so we're going to you're probably going to know this one, but it's Blind Tiger.
So you're not going where I told you should.
No, I am, but that Blind Tiger. First of all, the place you mentioned has live music, and the problem with that is like I want to talk to people
at night.
No, well, maybe. I mean, all I know is I Googled it and I saw a lot of music, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to hear people.
At night, you're going at noon.
That's a good point. I'm just realizing, but it's on the same street, so it's not a big deal. It's on Bleecker Street, so it's fine.
Okay.
So,
well, there's two places you got to hit up. You got to go to John's on Bleecker for pizza because it's the best pizza in New York City. And then you got to go to Gino's across the street to go get a cappuccino and a cannoli.
I've never had a cannoli. What?
Oh, don't even. How dare you? Don't even. You don't have rainbow cookies. You don't have cannoli. What is wrong with you? You live in Jersey.
Okay, so
it's not like you live in the middle of nowhere where you don't have bakeries. Like you live in Jersey and you've never had a cannoli. Like what is this?
Hold on, I'm Googling it right now.
Oh
Why is it spelled like this?
I sent you an Instagram reel of that huge cannoli with all the little mini cannolis in it. Like, you've never had cannoli before, really? You're just you're trolling me.
I'm gonna be honest. When you send me Instagram reels, it's very hard for me to take time out of my day and watch the entire Instagram reel. I'm just sorry.
You're trolling me. You've had a cannoli before.
I've never. Well, what is it, dude? Why is there so much cream in the dough? Like,
Oh
I've never
my
seen this before.
God.
I've had a Eclair. I've had one of these, Eclair.
Okay, so if you don't want to venture off of Bleecker Street, go to Gino's. It's right across from John's on Bleecker for pizza. But if you want to take a little walk, go to Cafe Palmero on Mulberry Street. Best cannoli in Manhattan, other than
It looks like an Asian spring roll.
no, up in the Bronx, but to die for. Like, incredible.
Steve, do you think? So I said this on the show today. I'm curious your take here. Do you think New Jersey pizza is better than New York pizza?
I've had some really good pizza in Jersey.
I think New Jersey pizza.
There's one place on the way to AC that is spectacular. I gotta get the name of it. Spectacular. But no, I mean, listen, it depends what style you like. There's all different styles of pizza, and there's really great pizza in the Northeast. I mean, a lot of people will say New Haven, even though they've probably never even been there for pizza.
That's what they said in the morning. They said that in the morning.
I have personally gone to Sally's, Frank Pepe's, and it beats. I love New Haven pizza, but I like all forms. I like Neapolitan. I like freaking regular. I'm not a big fan of deep dish, but you know.
Yeah, hold it. So someone in the morning was like, Dragos, if he's still here, he was like, Amit, Chicago deep dish. I was like, don't even
stop
mention
it. That's not pizza. You need a fork and knife for that. That's not pizza.
Yeah, but see, it's like a casserole, bro. There's no way.
I'm not saying it's not good, but if I can't hold it and eat it, and I need a fork and a knife, I'm not interested. If we're calling it pizza, but no, like there's two places I need to go that have not been, Cafe Uno and Locale. I am going to get to Locale this year. I have a connection to get me in, but I got to go there.
So, guys, apparently there's these bars that Steve was telling me about that are like cigar bars, and there's like cigar and steak bars. I didn't know these were a thing. You can go there, you can order a steak, have a cigar, have a drink all at once.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had like steak cigar bars, but we're going to have to hit one up.
Yeah, go up to 62nd and 5th. Go to freaking Cafe Macanudo.
Have you ever had In-N-Out, Steve?
No, I've never been to California.
You've never been to California?
Actually, no, I shouldn't say. I've been to California once for a training session with Workday. Other than that, I've never been to California.
Dude, we got to go to California.
I have no interest in going to California.
Why?
So I'm not getting on a plane for 6 hours.
Do you have a fear of flights or something?
No, just for what?
So
I can take a plane out for 6 hours and then take a plane back and change time zones? No.
Wait, but it's for traveling. What do you mean? Like,
I don't care.
That yes, you have to get on a plane to travel. That is inevitable.
Yeah, I don't care.
But you don't want to see the Hollywood sign or
no. No, I would like to stay on the East Coast. We can get on a plane and go to freaking South Carolina or Florida. I don't fucking care. It's still Eastern time zone. I'm not interested. It's just like Vegas. Zero interest in going to Vegas to gamble when I can go to AC and gamble and not get screwed up by the time zones.
No, but you don't want to see San Francisco, Palo Alto.
No.
Like these are important places in America, I would say.
No.
Wow. I didn't expect that.
Zero.
Wait, so have you ever been to Europe?
No.
Do you want to go to Europe?
If my wife wants to go, I'll go.
But like you don't want to see like Italy or something?
I live in the greatest country in the world. I'm good.
Look, I agree too, but like traveling is nice, right? You don't want to like see the world.
For some people.
Look, that's fair. Some people don't like to travel. I get it, but I don't know. I feel like California is like a place you got to visit. There's so much in California.
So you can go visit there and tell me how it is.
Wait, have you been to Texas?
Nope.
Yo, wait, have you just stayed in New York your whole life? I feel like that's the conclusion we're getting to.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why you know every single street and bar and cannoli shop and like you haven't seen anywhere else in the world.
I was fortunate enough to grow up in one of the best places you can grow up in.
No, that's fair. Look, I love New York, so I can't say anything. All right, Steve. Enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you soon. And yeah, thanks for being on the show. We'll put Steve's Twitter right here in the chat. You can check out his Seeking Alpha from there.
Yeah, well, you have fun with your bad self.
Okay. Appreciate
Stay
you,
out of
Steve.
trouble tomorrow.
I will stay out of trouble. Thank you, man. Talk to you later.
Make sure you go get a cannoli.
I will make sure to get a cannoli and send a picture to you. 100%.
All right, good.
All right. Talk later.
All right, later.
All right. Yes. Yo, the way he said no when I said, have you ever been to California? I am clipping that, and that's going to be on the soundboard. As soon as he said the no with his high-pitched voice, I instantly was like, all right, that's going on the soundboard. And the I don't care. So we will have 2 Steve sounds getting added this weekend. All right. So back to Karp. For those that don't want to listen, this is going to be the next 50 minutes or 45 minutes. So it's going to be long. So if you want to leave, you can leave now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Wrapping up the 3rd trading week of January 2025 and the last stock market close underneath the Biden administration. Trump will be inaugurated on Monday. I'll be live probably 10 a.m. on Monday, and we'll be covering it from 10 to probably 4 p.m. And then Tuesday, we'll be live again. There will be no Sunday future show because we don't have a market open on Monday, but we will have Pltr Weekly tonight. So we'll still be live for Pltr Weekly. You've never had a cannoli should be on the soundboard. Dude, I'm not trolling. You guys think I'm trolling. I've never had a cannoli. I've heard of them. I've like heard of the concept of it. I think I've seen pictures of it, but no, I've never had a legit cannoli. They look good though. They don't look bad. So I will try it over the weekend in New York. And again, if you want to join, I sent the Telegram link in the chat. If you just scroll up, all the details will be there if you are joining. But 12 p.m. we'll be there. Probably will go to like 5 or 6 p.m. and whoever wants to show up can show up, talk, and yeah, just chill tomorrow. I did not watch the full Sham Ben Shapiro interview. I saw clips of it, but not the full thing yet. We are doing Hood Weekly on Monday. Yes, Hood Weekly will still be on Monday. All right, here we go. Back to Karp. I'll pause it in between if I hear something that I want to analyze, but this is Karp interviewing Ted Mabry, the global head of commercial. It's not really him interviewing it. They're kind of just having a discussion, and they're talking about Karp's latest book.
And broaden it in a very rapid time manner.
So riffing on that is one of the primary initial critiques of why do you go to market with forward deployed engineers? Very intensive. It's not going to scale. It's services, not software. All of these tropes that we've heard for a long time. Yet my lived experience is, of course, no matter how good your product is, if you didn't engage in a highly interactive way with this customer, they're not going to be able to adopt the software to do the things around reorganizing it, building on top of it, and how it's going to work. And so that idea that, well, if software, the interesting question isn't services or software, it's what is the degree of alignment? And then if you are more aligned with the customer, you're going to create more value.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot. If you steel man the critique of software, so the primary reason no one used services in any part of the software stack is because analysts maybe correctly thought if you began with, there's a lot in this. If you began with services, you're going to show value to the client, and you're never going to break the cycle of moving from services to product, because doing product, as we all know, is really effing hard. And so that's point one. So they tend to be skeptical of that migration. There's a one point in there where I think it's very subtle. When we did forward deployed engineers, we were doing 2 things. One, we were figuring out not just what they thought their problem was. We were figuring out what we thought their problem was as a universal scalable problem, meaning it would work across all enterprises. And 2, and this is where I think our kind of willingness to be mad men and women really paid off. We were not in what we thought the problem was. It wasn't just what the problem should be. It's what the problem ought to be. So, Sham has this whole riff about how, one customer in government. The interesting thing is the one customer in government, like they're your customer basically, and the traditional attitude is shut up and do whatever the fuck I tell you to do. And the Palantir version
We got to hear that again, bro. Hold on. We got to hear that again.
ought to be. So, Sham has this whole riff about how, one customer in government. The interesting thing is the one customer in government, like they're your customer basically, and the traditional attitude is shut up and do whatever the fuck I tell you to do. And
is it weird that I'm kind of attracted to how he says the F word? There's a certain way he says it, bro, and it's just cool the way he says it.
And the Palantir version of that is, no, we're going to figure out what the problem you think that you actually need to solve, and then we're going to build the product you ought to build. And that is extremely dangerous because, first of all, the client may fire you, and so then you'll have no revenue and you'll go out of business. Second of all, again, to point one, you might get stuck in the services cycle, and then your business is actually not super valuable. And third of all, if you audaciously build the thing that the partner ought to want but doesn't want, can you get them to buy it? And what if they're right? And so, but I think what's very, very cool about the Palantir journey is the structure on the inside does not reflect the structure on the outside. And then it is like, I talk to Palantirians all the time, and I ask Palantirians, like, why have we been so successful? And the usual answer is the talent, which honestly, is a kind of non-modest, but I think very true answer. And like everyone's like, yeah, my talent. And that's true. Actually, they're very talented people here, but it's of course interesting. That's everyone's answer. But I think the thing Palantirians miss is normally companies reflect the structure of the people that they're selling to in a weird way. So one of the things you pointed out in your notes to me and online, in your, I think you published it, at least internally, is, in every company that you will meet, everyone has the same role. It's like every company has the same roles, right? And it's so obviously a mistake, but since everyone does it, it just stays that way. So if you're like, I don't even know these titles, but if you're VP of finance in one company, that equates to being VP of finance. Okay, at Palantir, there are basically no real roles, right? So we mobilize the whole company against the outcome of the partner as defined by the outcome they ought to want in a couple of years and that we're going to want. And we're very aligned because if we are right, we're going to do very, very, very well, which no one believed. We believed. If they're right, at the very least, they're getting something they could never, ever produce themselves. But the internal and external organizational structure are in no way the same. And this is crazy radical.
Yeah, I want to corner you on the internal part. So one of the most annoying things of dealing with you is most of the time when I ask you what to do, you say, I don't know, figure it out. The times you do tell me what to do and I ask you why, you say, I can't explain why. Explain.
Well, that's actually very true, by the way. And yeah. Well, again, I just want to drill down on that. The Palantir works on we've borrowed from a lot of cultures. Forward deployed engineers are stolen from French restaurants, and in general, like that's where the whole idea came from. So it's like you sit in a restaurant and you're like, why is the food so good? Well, it's because the waiter is an expert in the food and is preparing the food all the way to the end. And if you ask for the craziest, dumbest thing that would blow up the restaurant, they're like, go somewhere else. And I was like, well, that's obviously, we got to be 10 times better than everyone. We're no way we're succeeding in the U.S. government unless we're 10 by any metric, 10 times, 100 times better. The two parts of his question is like, figure it out. Okay. Well, first of all, the reason we hire the best, most aligned people in the world is for most, and we slot them. So like, I would say my job at this point is what slot should you be in, and somewhat like, is because the German term for doesn't translate really, but an Auftrag is a mandate, and a mandate is different than an order. An order is I tell you to do 15 things, 14 are stupid. You do them, the whole thing sinks, and you're not responsible because I told you 14 things to do and I'm the boss. A mandate is I pick a slot for you where, for whatever reason, I think you are going to be the best person we could possibly find. And we're like, this is the problem set within the context of how we roll and your years of experience. Figure the damn thing out. Okay, so that's the mandate. And that's how Palantir works with Aufträge, not with orders. And it's interesting because everybody who's non-Germanic thinks of the Germanic culture of, somebody with a German accent saying something, you just follow it blind. That's just not how the German military works. It's not how anything I think of high quality works. It will not work with Palantirians because everyone here has a massive discount rate, and I don't think it should work with people of a certain level of talent because it's like, you're not my indentured servant, and you will figure out and understand things. Now, then there's the corner case of it's outside the mandate, it's really creative. And let's say in this case, I'm the person who's got to make it work, which is not always the case, but at the top, it's like when you're working at a level of your true artistic capacity, you will be able to figure things out and have biases that are likely to be true. Not always true.
Okay, so that right there, that sentence, 100,000% agree with. He just said, when you are working in a true artistic fashion, you will be able to figure things out with biases that are likely true. I relate to this personally, not because I'm a software engineer, but because I'm a content creator. And a lot of times software engineers have to be creative, definitely in Palantir, because you're doing really hard shit and you've got to create things. As a content creator, building a YouTube channel over the past 4 years, there was no guidelines to it. There was no, manual on how to do it. You just figure it out. But that's the nature of creativity. And I think one of the key elements of Palantir in terms of their culture is that internally, if people can have the autonomy to feel creative enough to then try to go figure it out with the likelihood of failing many times, the amount of times that it does work, you're going to have massive success because most organizations are so bureaucratic and so corporate that they're never going to be creative to try anything new. And I think that right there highlights why Palantir has a churn rate that rivals pretty much every other software company in America.
True. But because you can figure them out with very sparse, if no data, and because you have a propensity for being right, the act of explaining it is just an artificial construction to help convince the person to do the thing that is very likely to be right. So you're losing a lot of time. And sometimes you need that time. Like sometimes I'm bringing Palantirians along on, 20 years, 18 years of explaining, we are going to win. And but the truth is I just envisioned we were going to win. And there were lots of reasons and lots of permutations. But at the level of true artistic creation, the act of explaining why you're right is very, very different than the act of being right. And this is one of the reasons, personally, one of the major reasons I left academia. There's lots of reasons I left academia, honestly. The combination of unpleasant people with very little impact and huge undeserved egos in most cases that are massively ideological and predisposed to being wrong while certain that they're right. You could think they were analysts, but they're academics. So in any case,
riffing on that, I think one of the most interesting sort of thematic things, the primary takeaway of the book is things that almost look like contradictions on the surface, or if you were to sort of bucket them into different tribes in society of you're just consistently contradicting them. And this tech is great, tech is terrible. The institutions are broken, the institutions are required, constantly back and forth. And then I think internally, there are so many of those contradictions that look like contradictions, but are not contradictions. And so let me give you a couple and how you think about them. One is, I think one of the primary themes of the book is lambasting the lack of any normative opinion on what we should be building in technology. But then there's also a lot of discussion about how to build technology and lionizing, glorifying the Silicon Valley culture that will iteratively travel and define and figure out what it is to build. Kind of that balance between, I think you use the analogy of the fox and the hedgehog in the book. How do you sort of explain this, not enough opinion here, too much opinion here? How do you balance those things together?
Yeah, well, these are really cool questions. Well, again, there's I'll start with what I think is going on here, and then I'll try to unpack it. I think a very successful structure that's of any kind that where the structure is defined by it has to have more output than input. So you could call that a business, but honestly, that could be anything. You're a great writer, a philanthropy that wasn't, was actually doing important things, something that may exist. You have to simultaneously drive deep enough to get a unity and be open to the fact that you're not far along enough to solve all the problems, and then drive those things far enough again so you get to the point of artistry where the artist, whether that's say me in an area or you in an area or everyone here, can go to the final mile beyond what the non-artist could understand. So you're really getting a lot of the contradictions into the structure. Now, what does that mean in practice? It means, okay, so if you just take, we are a product building company that uses our primary form of research for doing that, our forward and deployed engineers. That is massively a huge, it's an irreconcilable contradiction from the perspective of most business people. But if you're able to do that and you're able to push the frontier of the product into the services, you can unlock a lot of things. And again, you can set up the table for a world where you could unlock more with AI and LLMs. And that's only possible where you have a concatenation of people who are working at their complete and very unusual spike, so that they can see in the services productizations. And so that's the product internal version. The moral kind of like, so that's also like, you do need a bias of how to build product, what a product does, what it would mean to build a product, meaning we build what it ought to be, not what basically in the past venture capitalists and analysts want. That's the kind of overarching framework. But then the way you actually advance that is by being open to experimentation, open to clients having new data sets and new insights. On the societal side, I think one of the things that's very corrosive about discourse in the West is you're kind of forced into these very farcical, obviously simplistic things like tech is good. Okay, well, I don't think anything as powerful as technology is inherently good or bad. It could obviously, obviously what we're doing at Palantir could be used for nefarious bad things, which is why we've always restricted what we sell to, in my view, the forces of good. Now, you can debate, and there would be a debate in this room about who are the forces of good. But then we drive that debate more openly than any other company I've ever seen, certainly any company that's ever gone public in the history of at least American companies. I know of no others. It's like we're not hiding behind what we believe. In fact, it's a little, but we're saying within the prism of what we believe to be good. Like, I believe the West is superior. And I believe it's actually superior, especially in the places where the people disagree with me. So most people who think the West is not superior have a narrative where the West is somehow trampled on human rights and is pro bigotry, and of course there are problems with the West. But on that very score, the West is the only set of nations that have actually ever cared and done anything about this. It's like as a culture and as a company, we, on the product side and on development and how we organize, are anti-platitude and pro-contradiction. We build the best products in the world by starting with services. But we're aware, and then we're willing to fight for decades to show that that was the right way to do it. On the other hand, we expand that by finding like the contradictory data sets that allow us to deepen and deepen. And then on the outside, flowing into the inside, I see that as tailored to yeah, and we're not obfuscating the complexity of what we're doing. It's, it's like, I would say as a final feature, Palantir, for as controversial as we've been throughout our history, and as likely as it seemed to everybody involved in Palantir that you were doing a noble project for which you would not be paid until about 3 years ago. One of the reasons we got the best talent in the world and could organize them in a truly radical way was we never ever tried to feed the most talented people in the world a diet of obvious, like, synthetic, slightly carcinogenic ingredients that smart people do not believe, and that it's like you get everybody you would want and you don't get anyone you do want. So yeah,
let's double clicking on that, on talent and on people. Another thing kind of drawing the book and the external diagnostic with the internal diagnostic is there's a lot of talk about people that our way of life is responsible for in the past that were also deeply flawed in some way, shape, or form. And oftentimes internally, it's a lot of, we need people with spikes. We don't need people well-rounded. Talk a lot about actually really seeking intellectual conflict. It's like, do you want no assholes or all assholes? As a, maybe there's not a binary answer to that question along the way, but looking at kind of people embracing flawed people, or maybe just embracing real people, the actual motivations that are required of them to do things, or how to motivate them in real ways versus fake what you'd like to be actually motivating. You talk a little bit about how you view internal and external talent.
Well, I mean, this won't be news to anyone internally, but, externally, I actually think a lot of the questions externally are interestingly like, but is it true actually that, we do these things internally? Is it true that, like, for like there are a lot of people who are new to Palantir, because like we went from being 3 years ago kind of a niche company to being now millions and millions and millions of people view us, and we have millions of shareholders. And so the people who are newer to Palantir, who haven't watched, these things over the last 20 years, may not be aware. I've been saying, and we've been doing this for 20 years. And yes, 20 years ago. So, but one of the biggest things we do here is, like, historically, when you go to, many of you went to elite universities, and I would say especially those universities, they seem to want, or getting into them, they seem to want, people with like all A's, and you have a sport, and you have your teachers write glowing recommendations, and I don't know, there's just a general vibe, you're going to be governor someday kind of thing. That's what they want. That's not really what we're looking for at Palantir, honestly. What I want when I talk to somebody, and I did a lot of the early recruiting, and I'm walking around here and now still as involved as I can be. I really want somebody who's like A+ at something, and I tend to think it's more likely they're A+ at something if they're F- at something too. Now, there are exceptions. The great Bob McGrew, great at everything. And I don't mean that facetiously, just like, it's like there may be someone out there in this audience like that. I'm mentioning Bob because
not me.
Not anyone running the company now. And although, Bob, you're very much welcome back, a really decent, wonderful person. But it's, just assume that A, you're not Bob, and B, that's not as a matter of rule. That's just in general a real exception. And there have been roughly 8,000 people who are either at Palantir or we're at Palantir. We're just under 4,000. I can only think of Bob. And I interact with thousands and thousands of people. If you think you're that person, it's like this famous saying when you're playing poker at a table and you don't know who the mark is, it's you. Like, very likely, if you think you're that person, you're making a grave mistake in your life, and you're sitting next to. And what we want at Palantir are people that, where we can identify a massive, crazy quite literally 1.5 million talent, and we want you to hopefully embrace that and work on it all the time. And then I was telling someone this morning, it's like what you want to do is find something that's really, really unusually easy for you, and then find the hardest problems ever in that domain and solve them. That's what we want. That's what we reward. Now, there is this version of, I sometimes wonder, like, have I just built the company to make everyone dyslexic too? So it's like, I built this company. It's like the subconscious motivation is, you can be dyslexic too. Is the only thing I've ever really been in the closet about. And now I just think of it as like, I was so far in the closet. I just built this company where it's like, you think you're not dyslexic. If you're not Bob McGrew, you're probably dyslexic. And so I'm going to make you do this thing that you're otherworldly good at all the time. And I'm going to help you understand how cool it is. That's now, again, where I would say this is even much more insightful than it's looked in the past. Okay. In the past, when we started this company, we built this incredible product, PG, but like we had very limited technical means. Like there were no LLMs, so we had to use NLP. There's like we're using, the integrations were nothing like what we're doing. Compared to what we're doing, very, very simple, and that's why the addressable market was much, much smaller. It's still very powerful, especially in Europe, stopping terrorism. Could someone in Europe thank us for that? Eventually, some exceptions here, but in any case, I did actually really change it. But in a world where you have LLMs and you have Foundry and you have the ontology, the single most important thing for an institution, a country, or an individual is to harness your unique and highly individual bordering on artistic talent in the context of that and transform the institution into a world-beating, but also completely unique institution. The thing about the homogeny and grayness that's inflicted upon most people in most institutions, not just public, but certainly private, is it is ideally ill-suited for a world where the most valuable thing in the world is being unique, artistic, individual, and creative in the context of being able to harness large language models and AI. Obviously, for people here, that would mean an ontology. But that ontology actually is Palantir plus your unique brain, or the tribal or particularistic insights of your country or your institution or your mind. And I would say, if you just look out at the world right now and you wanted to map what countries, what institutions, what individuals are going to massively outperform, what you're going to find are the ones that can lean into something that is particularistically valuable about what they do, how they do it, and can be institutionalized essentially with the right function, so that you have the individual otherworldly insights in a unique way of doing it. So America being particularly American is going to lead to huge results. A insurance company, a manufacturing company, bank, military, of course, military is the best example. How do you fight? With whom do you fight? How much do you value the human life of your citizens? How much do you value the human life of your adversaries? How much are you willing to go out on a limb to fight for your people? Are you willing to be unpopular at a cocktail party in order to save the lives of your people? Like Nat, are you better at hardware? Or are you better at software? Are you better at the hybrid? Or are you better at one or the other? Are you more likely to be the aggressor or the person who acts after? Is your adversary technical? Is your adversary willing to sacrifice their people for you? Does your adversary have an advantage in elite or non-elite institutions? What assets what is your supply chain like? How can you update? Is your supply chain and your target chain integrate? Is it integrable? Can you get rid of the political fissures that are built into your military? How many of them can you get rid of? What kind of authorizations are you going to use? Do they need to be hard-coded, soft-coded? What is your reaction time? How many engineers do you have available to your society? How good are those engineers? Are you able to be honest about how good they are? Are you able to be honest about the fact that your country is not producing military-grade software and no one is likely to build it? How do you deal with that? And the answer to all those questions basically comes down to, can you organize your society in a way that's particular to its strengths and weaknesses, where you highlight the strengths and get rid of the weaknesses in an ontology that allows you to take the generalizable things from the specific, i.e. large language models, code them ethically, i.e. code. And then if you're not America or no, how the fuck do you do that without Palantir? That's a real question for a lot of countries. Like, they're not going to buy Palantir. I mean, I don't need to pick on like bans in Germany. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Before I don't want to move on, because I think that riff was the most important thing that you said. So if you're watching it, stop, go back to the beginning of it. But what I think was important about it is it started with an individual, right? Like, how do I view myself, my unique talents? How do I deploy those? How do I deploy those with maximum ambition? And I think a lot of what you sort of lampoon in the book, and a lot of things that I've had to unlearn, frankly, coming here, which is what I hope everybody at Palantir can unlearn more quickly, is where do you have agency? At what level of the conceptual stack? At what level of the company stack? At what level of the market stack? At what level of the society stack do you have agency? And where are you accepting previous structures and saying, okay, like, if I went to Princeton and I worked in investment banking and I get a job at a hedge fund, like, I can have agency in that way. And I think your reordering of saying, like, actually agency exists much more first principles lower down in the stack, of saying, how do I reassemble these things? Because that's actually where the interesting agency is not taking all of these kind of calcified societal company, et cetera, structures, and then saying you have to take all that as a given, and then you have this one iota of creativity where you can do something. And I think what you're saying is, like, no, you have to really think about it. Like, who is the person? What can they do? What group of people can you get to work together? Against what problem? Who are they? Why are they likely to succeed? And really being honest.
and you have to be completely honest. And again, I think the honesty threshold is, I mean, institutions obviously and individuals struggle with honesty, and we all struggle with honesty, because a lot of that is like, no, I cannot be the person that can do A, B, C, D, even though I really pain, it's very painful. And then institutions and society struggle with this, because it's like, tech is in no way fair. Very few people can do it. So then there's a question of then once you deal with that truism, then you have a lot of political issues, which I think we could help out with, which is, how do you scale up people who are not going to be world-class engineers to being fairly close to world-class? And there's a lot you could do with AI and ontology, but and I think we should do that, and we definitely need to do that in America, because we have all these very smart people who could be made to do engineering things, and we're seeing this across our customers. And honestly, it's just a really cool thing, and it's been a huge advance for us. But the single thing that I would really hope Palantirians, first of all, that take away from this is, yeah, the agency begins with the first crumb. Like, how are we going to do this? But if we do this in a way where we're completely honest about the resources we have and we need to get, especially human resources, you can actually basically set off a bomb. Like, you can build an agency bomb that just, like, again, it's like, look at the bomb, look essentially the societally changing things of PG, Apollo, Foundry, AIP, Maven.
So how do you do the honesty part? So because I think that's, like, maybe the most important part. Like, my internal riff on this is, the very best Palantirians, like, everybody here is smart. Everybody could get an A on a test if they wanted to, but the ones who really thrive here are the ones that are capable of starting to learn things they didn't want to learn. Like, it's uncomfortable. They didn't want to learn it. It clashes with what they hope to be true, all of those different things. And I think you're then saying that's true micro, and then that's true macro. How do you get more honesty?
Well, look, a lot of this is constitutional. For those of you, like D&D had all these ratings, and, like, we're all like, again, some of us have very high constitutions, some wisdom, intelligence. Some of us don't. So it's, but I would say one, just at a political, societal, and individual level, if you do not do this, do not come running to somebody when the whole thing fails. So my version of this is everyone in this room should be exceedingly happy. See, I don't know if people can put the cameras on the room to some extent, but you know, it kind of looks like a room of people. Average age looks like 22. Maybe it's
But grizzled.
Yeah. Well, we're in the fight. We're doing serious stuff, and you know, we have to win, if only to humiliate our enemies. And we are built to win. So it's like, we're not fucking, that's the other thing about that. We're not fucking around with this, like, you know, losing, you learn to lose. And like, after you've lost 50 times, you've learned from that pain, and no, you're just losing.
I mean, look, I like hearing that from the CEO. We're built to win and we're not going to effing lose. I don't know, man. That sounds like a CEO that's ready to give a good fourth quarter. You know, anything could happen, but he is not taking failure as an option.
Never been a moment of Palantir. I can tell you this. I've been here 20 years, and we have never, ever had a thing where let's just do that and lose. That does not exist here. You should not accept that. So we don't accept that as a modus operandi here, nor should you accept that. Whatever your political, institutional beliefs are, that is a recipe for disaster for everyone involved, especially people who are less fortunate. Like that, just like it does not help the less fortunate of society to have societal structures that do not deliver any value. In fact, those people are the people who suffer the most. But at it's like, if you want to be happy at the ripe age of 40, you will focus on like what I view as like artistic development. And you develop by understanding what it is you're doing and where is it actually valuable and where it isn't. And it's like a banality, but you have to somehow imagine how painful it's going to be to have your level of talent and to be unhappy because you've not done something that you really believed in at Palantir for hopefully forever. Most people that stay at Palantir are happier than most people that leave. Just
okay, yeah.
Putting that out there.
Well, picking that up, I think two things that you said there that I want you to riff on. One is because
by the way, this is actually typical of a meeting. So, you know, those of you in the audience here and those of you later watching this, you may think this is like some surreal act, but this is actually our meetings. Maybe it's a little bit, I'm going.
Nobody gets to talk about what they want to talk about. So moving on.
Well, I'm talking about what you ought to want to talk about.
Yeah.
Not what you.
And now I know how much it sucks to be my customer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, why talk about what you want? Yeah. You need to talk about this.
Okay. So two things though. Now back a compliment. Two things you've said to me that have been very formative for me was this. I never played Dungeons.
Just to chime in here real quick. This is how Karp is in person. I've had the honor of meeting him 4 times. Dude, his mind is running everywhere. Like, I think I told you guys the story the 3rd time I met him. He came up to Arnie and I at AIPCon. He talked to us for 30 seconds. He wandered off somewhere, and we were like, all right, cool. We got to talk to him for 30 seconds. Randomly comes out of nowhere and then spends 10 minutes with us. Like, and he answered a question that Arnie asked in the initial 30 seconds that he didn't answer in the first meeting where he came up to us because he just like randomly walked away. And then he came back and he's like, yeah, so what I was thinking about that question, it was crazy, dude. His mind is running everywhere. And this is what makes him a unicorn CEO. Some people might hate it. Some people might love it, but he is a different breed.
Dragons, but the idea that intelligence and wisdom are 2 different characteristics, right? You can be smart or you can be dumb and wise and smart and wise. And this concept of like, you need to believe in something. In Palantir, if it is nothing else, it is a company of believers. And on staying or not, along my different time, I think there were definitely years where it was frankly stupid to stay.
Very stupid.
But very wise, right along the way. Like we weren't winning. the whole time, or winning
No, I mean,
in a way
like
where
15 to 18, I thought starting in 17 at the end, we were turning it around, but no one thought we were winning 15 to 17, 18.
So on that, it was okay. It was dumb to stay, but it was wise. And why? Well, it was like believe in what you're doing. And a lot of that, I think, comes down to is like if you believe in it, you're going to be more open to being honest about evaluating what works or not because you're committed to making it work. And then a lot of the critique in the book is basically this just absence of belief and all of these kind of hollow structures that have replaced belief in our broader society. And so I wonder if you want to riff a little bit on like why believing matters. And then also on the contradiction point, a lot of the things that you make points are out is like, how do I force myself to believe in something when I have no data in order to do it? And here's Palantir, a company that manages data, helping data-driven, et cetera. But a lot of the way you make decisions are not data-oriented. They are a deeper belief-oriented. Like, how do you think about that?
Well, it's it's like belief or not belief. It's very hard to convince people who have no beliefs they should have beliefs. So I would, if the audience was like people who don't have beliefs, why should you? I would start with it's like explaining colors to colorblind people, but I would say, as a matter of fact, you will be healthier, happier, and more successful if you have a belief structure. They probably don't believe you on the more successful thing because it's like this Machiavellian thing. But then, of course, it depends how you define success. But I even think on the narrow matrix of like least important, but maybe financial success, there's a lot of decisions. And of course, when I say belief, like, for example, people in the audience might think like every time we are like writing a line of code, we're like, this line of code must be, conform to XYZ. It's much more like on that level. It's like, yes, we believe we are doing something really important, and that has to seep into every little thing we do. But it's very hard to convince people who have no beliefs that they should have beliefs. And I think one of the feature sides of Palantir's, pretty prickly, like view of us, meaning, man, like getting up and being, the caricature of true guys were like, we're the first large important company to be, and I think are the only, but one of the few to be like basically anti-woke. But I think that served. We had a lot of people at Palantir who disagreed with my views on this all the way through. But I think they stayed because they had beliefs, and so even their believers can talk to believers easier than believers to sophists. But it's like, I don't know, it's synonymous with, are you religious? But it's I think empirically, I do not think you can build a country without patriotism of some kind. It shouldn't be xenophobic, obviously. I think one of the big issues in organizing modern day Germany now is, it's very hard to organize a society. You do need rational patriotism, but that makes people in Germany very uncomfortable. And I think one of the big reasons why so many, even companies in our space really aren't going to do as well as people think is on the inside, the leaders, the belief structure is not always, but sometimes it's just like, I want to get this company to the point where I can get out. And then everyone feels that. And then I think if you're really driving to do that, people sense that. And then you end up with people who are not going to go the final mile. The final mile might just be, yeah, God, that person's better at me than doing this. I'm going to let them do it. It might be the obvious working harder. Quite frankly, sometimes it's just sitting there listening to somebody who's purchasing our software, give a long conversation about how to build a software company, and they have no idea what they're talking about, and not telling them, wow, that's stupid. Just saying, oh, that's interesting. Now buy the damn software. And and I would say for me personally, as more like an advice thing, if you don't have these kind of things in your life, you will see that your life is empty, and you probably will end up with like friends and partners that are less interesting and may not be friends and partners actually. But it's I do think one of the cool things about Palantir though is we do prove that a living, breathing, believing organization actually can disrupt in a way where anyone looking at the numbers who does not care about any of that has to kind of pick up the page and say, but how are they doing this? And I can tell you how we're doing it. We're organizing the best believers in the world, getting them to understand that what we're doing is so important that you actually have to throw out everything you've ever learned about how to organize yourself and do it in a way that actually works. And then we're dividing the proceeds of what we do with everyone who invested in our company. That includes everyone in this room.
Maybe last question. I know why I'm happy you wrote the book. Why you're a busy guy. Why bother writing it at all?
Well, I mean, I was super happy with the questions you sent over. Like, I wrote the book to elicit those questions. Now, there's just like internally, externally, like, how do we organize? How do we organize in the West? How do we organize in a way where we're more productive and happier? How do we solve a lot of problems that I think we have in the West, like, lifting up people who would not participate in the tech culture? So like making them participate. How do we build organizations that have more output than input, which is what we do in government and in commercial? How do we get people internally to understand this actually makes sense? And one of the values of a slightly intellectual treatise is, or like put it maybe in the negative way, I think beyond all the obvious ways elite educational institutions have failed, maybe the biggest way they failed is they're not giving you an intellectual architecture that in any way can be attached to the emotional architecture and the operational architecture by which important things actually work. So when you come here, you've mainly been taught how to read texts that are basically kind of the gateway drug to intellectual and financial, in the sense that you'll probably fail, servitude. And I believe this, like an intellectual rendition of what we've built at Palantir, is the single best way to allow people who aren't participating in the Palantir juggernaut to connect to the underlying logic by which it works in a way they can intellectually and emotionally relate to. And I hope it starts a journey for them for like, wow, all these things that I was taught was a way of making people, making it palatable to me, that I should sit there with an Excel spreadsheet, misunderstand Palantir, not actually get valued for my mind, and at the end be deeply unhappy and end up in partners and relationships that are corrosive at best and painful at worst, when I could have been a free person. And I think the political consequences of that are, especially in America, will be, will be help an otherwise very successful country just be even more successful. And nothing changes the world like quantifiable success. So for all the 20 years of talking we've done, others have done, most people are now willing to hear the message, because while in the past people were just chuckling, it's like I'm like the bear in the zoo, grizzly bear that can walk on a tightrope and juggle, and it's hugely entertaining but not that important.
Someone's got to make a t-shirt.
Huh?
Someone's got to make a t-shirt.
Got to make a t-shirt. So now people are going to listen, and they're going to do their damnedest to change. And I want them to change for all of our sakes. And then internally, I want the process of being put in, basically, I cited Goffman in there, who did a whole thing on the total institution. Total institution is like you go into prison or an asylum, and it like you're surrounded. And if you've ever been to one of these institutions, like if you go to an insane asylum, literally after an hour or so, you're like, oh, they seem so normal. But making the process of like acclimating to the Palantir, dare I say, asylum, much easier, faster, impactful, and deeper, which will help all of you here, and it will help you in whatever you do the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I got out of the book, which is, even after 15 years, it's so chaotic. It's so hard to reason about why these things are happening to me. Oftentimes, it's very hard to process that. Do I want to keep dealing with that pain? And the book was very helpful for me, even 15 years later, to be able to put that into that logical framework. And a lot of my experiences, something happens, I don't understand it. And then 9 months later, it's like, oh, that's what you meant in the concept of doing that. And so I'm very excited that we will have that logical framework. Again, I think it will dramatically accelerate the Palantirians that are willing to read it. Of course, nobody will do it if you tell them to, but
Don't read the book.
Yeah.
I haven't said, no one read the book. Don't read it. There's vast secrets in there, but you don't want to read them. You don't want to read them. Don't read them. They're hidden from you.
I do think it will ramp Palantirians a lot faster. So I'm very thankful that you wrote it. Thanks.
No, thank you for reading it and everything else.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Take care. Questions. We'll do it again another time because it's like this was a lot of like talking. But thank you, everyone.
All right, there we go. Karp on the Technological Republic. Look, I think there's a lot to get out of that interview. Obviously, a lot of different moments, maybe some different rambles going on here and there that were kind of hard to keep up with, especially with all the philosophical terms. I think the thing I got away with it is culture at Palantir. And it's, I think the number one thing, this was in front of the employees, so it wasn't really meant for investors or anything like that. I think it was meant for the employees to get a better understanding of why Karp wrote the book. And the culture of autonomy at Palantir that I've talked about a lot, as I've just got to know a lot of the employees, is massive. And when you build revolutionary products that, as Karp said, have to be 100x better than the competition to be able to get the type of revenue that they're getting in the government, you need a really unique culture. And that culture has to be built on certain philosophical foundational values, paradigmatic values that are very, as Ted said, paradoxical. Like they're true, but they're not true. They're contradictions in and of themselves, but they make sense. And I think what he was trying to get at in this interview was, what are those values? And if you dive deeper into the interview, there's some hints that he drops on how they construct this culture in a way that truly is one of one. I think the biggest takeaway outside of just the culture I also got is Karp's confidence in the culture. So that moment when he said, we're built to win, that to me as a shareholder signals, okay, like if you got nothing from that as a shareholder, you're like, so Karp believes the culture is one of one. Karp believes the culture is built to win. And Karp also believes that losing is not an option. That's kind of all you need to hear as a shareholder to be like, okay, forget the valuation for a second. I think they're going to execute, and the market gets to decide what the valuation is. But as long as they execute, that's all you can ask as a shareholder. And then the market has to figure out how you comp it. So yeah, that's what I got from this. I think this is going to be one of many. I think there are going to be many, many, many interviews that Karp does over the next 5 months. I'm sure they want this book to get out there, not because he wants it to sell 1 million copies, but because if 1 million people actually buy the book, you have a lot more people caring about Palantir, and particularly the philosophical underpinnings of what it means to embrace Western values. And if people actually align themselves with those messages and with the philosophies that Karp outlines, they might end up buying the stock. They might end up getting more interested in Palantir as a concept, which is just, better name recognition for the company long-term. So exciting stuff. Not bad. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more of these over the coming weeks, and we'll be reacting to a lot more of this stuff as well. There were a lot of good moments of Karp saying certain sound bites. I'm gonna have to clip. He used the F word a lot in this one. So as you can see, he used the F word as well when we were talking. He just he blurts it out. Like that is, I don't know if that's one of his favorite words, but that is a word that is in his vocabulary. So he was not afraid to let loose in this one. And it was exciting. It was exciting to see him getting ready to explain this book to the world. Amit, when are you coming to Houston? I don't know. Guys, I will find out where I travel probably a month before I travel. I don't have some elite plan of planning up all these meetups. Like February is definitely California. January is definitely New York tomorrow. And then March, by the end of February, I'll figure out what we're doing in March. So I don't think Houston's March, though. I think it'll be probably spring, like May. March, I think, is going to be Miami. But then maybe March is like Texas. I like really, I'll figure out towards the end of the month because honestly, I just can't plan that far in advance. Like I usually plan a little bit closer to the date. But yeah, most likely. Also, I'm trying to align it with like other things. Like in California, there's a couple of things happening. That's why it makes sense to go to California. So if there's stuff happening in Houston, it would make more sense from a alignment perspective. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Oh, that's fine. Just thinking of cake ideas with Ray. Dude, I need a Palantir cake, Michelle. I need a Palantir and Hood cake. That's what I want. I will pay top dollar for a Palantir and Hood cake. Do something with Palantir and Hood, and that's the cake I want. May is your birthday? Okay, maybe we do May. We'll see. Palantir and Hood cake. That's what I want. Which cities in California? So definitely Palo Alto. Palo Alto this February. That'll be the main city. I'll be in Berkeley, though, so I'm just going to randomly tweet out, hey, I'm on Berkeley's campus, and if you're nearby, you can come through because I will be on Berkeley's campus for a couple days. But Palo Alto will be the city in California, and then we'll do LA later in the year. Maybe I'll bring Steve. He's probably not. Dude, it was so funny. I was like, why don't you want to go to California? He was like, who wants to spend 6 hours on a flight? He's not wrong. But still, the fact that like that's his argument, like I don't want to spend 6 hours on a flight. Such a unique individual, bro. Such a unique individual. Dude, I went to California when I was, first time I was, I want to say 17 or 18. 2015 is when I went. Probably 18. No, I was turning 18 that. No, I was 18. So that February of 2015 is the first time I went to California. And no. 2016, sorry. February 2015. That's right. February 2016. Yeah. So February 2015. So literally 10 years ago. And then ever since I've been there, like, I don't know how many times. So California is definitely a beautiful state to visit. I know California has their issues, but still, I remember the first time I was driving down the Bay Area and seeing the mountains. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I was like 16 with no layovers over the way. Yeah, I went direct from New Jersey. Very, very exciting. Do you remember the Palantir guitar song from Twitter in 2023? Great times. Yeah, that's Davis who made it. Davis is, I'm going to take a picture of this and send it to him. Davis will be happy that people remember that song. Davis is literally adding lyrics to that song as we speak. So that song will be updated in the future. Okay, I think that's it. So tomorrow is the New York City meetup for those that are coming. Again, the Telegram for those that have joined. I'll see you guys tomorrow at our first bar at 12 p.m. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be a bar crawl like normal. I'm happy we're doing it in a bar and it's not going to be super cold. It'll probably be like 5-6 hours, and whoever wants to show up can show up. Talk, take pictures. Again, I told you guys I'm going to be interrogating you, so I'll ask you tons of questions. But yeah, it'll be fun, dude. And I'll post all the pictures on X, so you can follow on X. I'll post all the pictures. It'll be fun to meet everyone in person, and it'll be super, super cool to get the meetups of 2025 started. I'm happy we're doing it because it was an idea I had for a while in 2024, and it's the first thing we're taking action on in 2025. So that was, I wouldn't say it's a resolution, but it was definitely a goal to like start the meetups, and we're starting it tomorrow. So super, super cool. I don't know if Aaron is coming, dude. You guys are wild. Absolutely wild. I have no idea. Theo says, makes me want to fly 24 hours over there to get there. Theo, eventually I'll be where you are. I think you're in Australia, right? Eventually. I've wanted to visit Aussie for a long time. So one day we'll do Australia. I don't think I've seen anybody on YouTube that has a community like yours and is doing meetups around the world. Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen other people that have communities and do meetups. I don't think they're doing it the way we're doing it in terms of like traveling to a new place every month and like trying to make like a fun day out of it. You know, in California, probably not going to go bar crawling because, you know, it's California. There's so many better things to do, especially outside. So I just want it to be special because, again, I think we're building the community very authentically. And I think that the growth of the community should be nurtured with the ability to do things that are, you know, in the words of Karp, highly differentiated. And I think what is differentiated as a content creator is if you actually meet the people you're creating content for. I think a lot of people forget about that, dude. They like create content, they get super excited, they build an audience, and they forget those are real people. They're not just numbers on a screen, you know? And if you genuinely love the process of building, it's kind of like if you're building a startup, right? And you have like to talk to your users, right? Who's using the app? Who actually cares about the product? So in this case, I think it'll be super fun. Also, again, I've compared it many times to like a musician, right? I would say 2024 was my first album, even though I've talked for many, many more hours than most musicians have sang their whole life. But that first year of my album was like, you know, the first year of trying to really seriously develop a brand here. And you want to meet the people that listen to your first album, because those are people that'll hopefully keep listening to your albums for the rest of your life. And you want to break bread with them. So I think it'll be super, super cool. And it'll be fun. Yeah, North Carolina. People have been saying North Carolina, Charlotte. It's a finance capital. People have been saying that. I think that might have to be on the list. That might have to be on the list as well. You went platinum. Yeah, dude, it's important. It's important. I take this very seriously, dude. I take it very seriously. I think it's, you know, it's very rare to actually develop a community that like really, you know, that's really tight knit, cares. You know, you got people texting about their wives complaining that they're watching me all day. Like, you know, that's just, it's like, it's something special. And I'm very grateful for that. I don't take it for granted. And I told you guys in 2023 or maybe early 2024, the biggest fear I had was taking it for granted. Like, bar none, the biggest fear I had was just assuming it'll always be there, and being complacent, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And as we can see from what Karp said right there, right? Like, you have to be so much better than the competition, because in this game, in this industry that I'm in, there is also competition. I mean, you guys could be watching Netflix right now, right? I'm like, so there's competition galore. And if you're developing a unique moat around your ability to entertain, inform, bring guests, create discussions, etc., then you can't get complacent. Because if you get complacent, it is very likely that you will lose your spot, but more importantly, you will take what you have for granted. And I think in the context of Palantir, they don't take their culture for granted, which is why they really hammer the culture of autonomy. I mean, I know a guy, shout out to Juba. You guys might know him. The OG Reddit Palantir might know him. He got a job at Palantir. Peter is his actual name. And he's helping run their social media. And, you know, in my conversations with him, he's like, dude, it's like, no one tells me what to do. I just have to go do it. I just like I got to go figure out how to like manage everything that I'm managing. I met him at the New York Grand Prix, and literally I saw it in firsthand what it looks like to just have no boss, no micromanagement, just going out there and doing it. And so that culture is so unique. They value that culture. They want to enforce that culture. They want to make that culture ingrained within every single employee so that they never leave. I think the same thing here. If you value the culture of being authentic, admitting when you're wrong, trying to use data to drive all your decisions, and then most importantly, actually connecting with your audience in a way that makes you not take it for granted, especially when you may disagree with what people have to say. Like, I don't disagree with every single comment, but that doesn't mean I'm going to disrespect those comments, nor does it mean I take it for granted that those comments are even there in my stream, because they could be in a different stream. They could just be not commenting because they don't even care. So the very nature of the fact that we're building this community, I think, is so special, regardless of all the differences of opinions. And that I think has to be, it has to be respected to it. It has to be seen as almost, what's the word I'm looking for? It has to be, it has to be religious in a sense, right? Like it has to be divine. Like that is one of the, it has to be axiomatic. That's the word. I'm trying to act like Karp right now. It has to be axiomatic. It has to be one of those things that is always presumed a priori to be true and never taken for granted. The idea that you even have a community in the first place. And that's important. It's very, very important. And again, my biggest fear is letting that go, which is why you get so consistent, why you stream for 10 hours a day. You know, a lot of people ask, like, don't you get tired of streaming? It's like, well, first of all, it's what I like to do. Second of all, it's like, it's what you have to do, right? Like, does a software engineer get tired of coding? No, because A, they presumably love doing it. B, you have to keep doing it to get better. Like, if you stop coding, you stop, you know, doing what you were supposed to do in the first place and getting better at the craft. So if this is what I want to do, then you have to keep doing it and really valuing the process of doing it. And you learn so much in the process, right? Like, every day I listen back to the streams every morning, not the entire thing, but certain moments of it. And I try to see, okay, was that the right thing to say? Does that sound a little weird? Was the perception of that not necessarily correct? Was that a good thing to say, even though it didn't sound like a good thing to say? Like, these are all little bits and pieces I try to dissect in order to make this thing better. It's really like watching game tape if you're a basketball player and be like, all right, where did I mess up there? And how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And so I respect the craft of talking, keeping people's attention. And now it's getting to the point where, you know, in the morning, we're getting 4,000 people every morning. Like last year, that was like 700-800. And so when you see that type of growth, you want to make sure you keep that growth, but you also want to make sure those people have a reason to come back and they enjoy the process of consuming your content. So that's it. That's the logic and the philosophy behind the meetups. Dallas definitely on the list. We're definitely doing Dallas. Dude, I have to get a real Dallas brisket. I've never had real Dallas barbecue. So definitely got to do that as well. Is Pardeville, Wisconsin too niche for a meetup? Okay, I've never heard of Pardeville, Wisconsin. Maybe Milwaukee, but Pardeville. Pardeville is a village in Columbia County, Wisconsin. The population was 2,074 people as of the 2020 census. It's a little niche to like this. Yeah, I think Milwaukee is dude, that's wild. 2,000 people. I don't think I could ever live somewhere where there's 2,000 people, bro. That's wild. That's wild. That's crazy. But no, maybe Milwaukee. I've really never been to the Midwest, bro. Really, I've been to Chicago once, but you know, definitely got to visit that part of the world. Ohio too, bro. Cleveland, Cincinnati. Never been to Ohio. I know the running joke is like never go to Cleveland because it's Cleveland, but still, I want to go to Ohio. But yes, Boston. We're definitely going to do Boston. Toronto, that's on the list as well. Definitely Dallas. Boston might be a March thing because Boston's East Coast. It's easier to do that in March. I know it's cold, but you know, maybe we can get the East Coast meetups out of the way even in the cold. And I'm familiar with Boston. I've been to Boston many times, so I'm relatively familiar with them. It's pronounced Pardeville. Okay, Pardeville is not a place that has 2,000 people. There's no parties going on in Pardeville. Dude, that's wild. Those are like the ones you see in the movies, right? Like the village with a couple thousand people in some random part of the United States, like in Idaho or Montana. I do want to visit those places though. Like I want to go to Idaho and Wyoming. Like I feel like those are dope places to visit, even if, you know, they're not super big cities. But yeah, we got to put them on the list eventually. See if we can get there. All right. I think that's it. Oh, Phoenix is great too. Yes, definitely got to do Phoenix. Eventually we'll have Phoenix. We only have 12 places to choose from because we can only do 12 this year. So, you know, 2026 we'll do another 12 and we'll try to make them different places to go to. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys had a great week. Obviously, markets did well this week. Still got a lot of time left in this year, but it's been a fun week. Congratulations on Hood in particular. I mean, that's a good one. It was a good one this week. I think it's got a lot of momentum. Q4 is going to be strong, and we got Trump on Monday. So we're going to see what happens with Mr. Trump. I'll be streaming it live on Monday. Pltr Weekly tonight. No Futures Sunday show because the market's not open on Monday, but we will have Hood Weekly on Monday. And we'll keep going from there. S&P 500, 597.58. Walgreens is down about 7% on that news. of the DOJ suing for the prescriptions. Google's up a little bit. You got Hood right there up another 0.5% after hours, 48.53. Got Palantir $72 after hours. And then the S&P again, 597.58, 0.47 after hours. All right. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. One last clap. I'll see you guys tonight for Palantir Weekly, but also Monday for the inauguration. It's going to be a big one. That's going to be a big one. There'll be like 4 or 5 hours, and we might get some executive orders. It's going to be big on Monday to see what's going on with Trump. So there it is. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys on Monday for the inauguration. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.